Go Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yamin of Revolution, and I got a World War III alert. We got a World War III alert, but before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Well, y'all know revolution is a way of life, and revolution is for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We got some revolutionary late night dinner for y'all. So let's get right into this tonight. The Arabs have been broken, y'all. The kingdoms, all the Arabs, they've been broken. They don't want to fight anymore. Few Hezbollah still want to fight, but they've been broken. Some fighters in Syria, they want to fight, but they've been broken. And it's a shame.
Picture taken by Israeli soldiers on the top of Mount Hermon, after the occupation regime fully captured and occupied Mount Hermon in Syria on Wednesday morning. Israel took advantage of the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad to annex more territory in Syria, without even firing a shot, which was clearly allowed by the leader of al-Qaeda or HTS, al-Jilani, who is supported by the West, calling it a revolution. In the past, when Syria had a state and an army, Syrian Arab Army had defended for 50 years Mount Hermon, the highest peak in Syria at about 2,814 meters, which was free for all Syrians. Now Israeli soldiers can take pictures there like never before. The Algerian Foreign Ministry said, "We strongly condemn the violation by Zionist entities Army of Syrian sovereignty, and the attack on its land after seizing the buffer zone."
Oh, Algeria, you just talking. You're an Arab nation that's just talking. You have a military. What you gonna do about it? All these strong worded messages that the Arab, they all puppets. They've been broken. They scared of Israel. They scared of the United States. They want Iran, which is Persians, to fight for them. They want Russians, which are Europeans, to fight for them. No, hell no. Arabs, you gotta fight for yourself.
On December 8, the occupation units of the 210th Division announced to start a proactive aggression from Golan Heights in response to the bad internal developments in Syria.
What Israel did, so you got to go back to a technique in Kung Fu called the drunken monkey. In the drunken monkey, it's just what you think. Just think of a drunk person doing Kung Fu. You drunk, salute. You drunk, people thinking you're not capable of doing what you really can do. It's called the drunken monkey. And you kick people's ass while they thinking that you're drunk. You're too drunk to fight. The drunken monkey technique. Israel have hit the Arabs with the drunk monkey technique. We thought they were losing in Gaza. We thought they were losing in Lebanon. We thought Iran was beating them. That seemed not to have been true. It seemed like Israel was doing a rope-a-dope. Salute, family, we in here. And that's just true. Revolutionary, we got to look at that. They played possum. They were never losing. You see? We were thinking them conquering a bunch of territory. No, they was doing a bunch of killing, a bunch of destroying. That was a big win for them. They played possum. And they have absolutely broken the Arab world. Remember, Iran is not Arabs. Those are Persians. The Arab world is laying down, except the Houthi rebels, but that is a militia group. They can't actually fight NATO. Egypt ain't gonna do it. The Arab world has been broken.
A number of military vehicles supported by additional troops, paratrooper units moved freely without any obstacles into Syrian territory,
if Israel wants to conquer the whole Middle East, it can do it right now. Who in the Middle East gonna stop them? I was saying, I remember Iran. Which Arab nation is going to stop them? None of them. Because the people that will stop them were Shiites, and they done allowed the Shiites to be broken.
control over the strategic area Golan Heights in 1981, although it is not internationally recognized as Israeli territory. Mount Hermon near the Lebanese border. Now the occupation has annexed it, so that Damascus is within a shooting range of only 40 kilometers. This is astonishing. Israel continues to annex Syrian land comfortably in front of the rebels and their supporters. HTS leader Abu Muhammad al-Jalani commented on the war with Israel. Syria will not be involved in a new war, because the country is not ready and its people are exhausted.
مصدر القلق كان فيها هو تواجد ميليشيات الإيرانية وميليشيات حزب الله ووجود النظام نفسه بتعمل إنجازات وشايفينها اليوم.
Too busy rounding up them Christians over there. That is very disgusting what they're doing. Conquering more territory. And the Arabs, and that's why Africa need to pay attention, man. Arabs ain't gonna help Africa liberate nothing, so they don't need to be allowing them in their country doing all kind of foolishness. They scared of Israel. They ain't gonna do nothing but write some powerful messages to the United Nations. That's serious goddamn business. You know, this war has shown me a lot, taught me a revolutionary lot about what we need to do and what we don't need to do.
Occupies 3 times the size of the Gaza Strip of Syrian territory.
They're not going to do shit about no Palestine. They is fucking scared to fight. That's serious business. All the movies, see, they good at chopping people head off, invading nations to enslave people. That's just serious business. But they not too good at fighting the colonizer and no goddamn oppressor, man. That's a fucking fact, man.
Just 2 days. And frankly, they can go as far and wide as they want. Nobody is opposing them. Nobody can oppose them. Any means of opposing them have been destroyed with the active complicity of those now in charge in Damascus. In fact, those now in charge in Damascus will not even utter a word of condemnation about Israel's seizure of their land. In fact, the new Che Guevara that is in power in Damascus has said categorically that his country is no longer an enemy of Israel, that his country will not fight a war with Israel. So Netanyahu can go as far as he likes, and he might go all the way. Why not? Now that all the Arab states are completely disarmed, now that the Syrian Arab Republic is no more, they don't have an air force, they don't have a navy. Israel has destroyed both of them in the last 48 hours. They don't have an army, they have an armed group of fanatic terrorists, of variety of plethora of different organizations, some of whom have even begun fighting among themselves already, and definitely will be within days, weeks, or at the maximum months from now. The Takfiri fanatics are crushing the Kurdish fighters in their enclave in Syria. They may find it a tougher nut to crack than the Syrian Arab army was in the end. These Kurdish groups are militarily, pardon me, very experienced, very well armed.
CNN, MSNBC, they learned their lessons from Libya, so they're not even putting under what was going on, and they're not putting the Christians being rounded up over there and beaten and all that type of shit on TV like what's really going on. They don't want to tell the people what those terrorists over there are doing right now.
Armed, and crucially, have the support of the United States. So we now have an intra-NATO conflict going on in the north of Syria between Turkey and US-backed Kurdish opposition groups. But in the rest, pardon me, in the rest of the country, things look black indeed. The black flags of ISIS and Al-Qaeda hang everywhere, are being paraded everywhere.
They're not going to show that. They're not going to show the black flags of ISIS and Al-Qaeda in Syria on the news because Americans will realize what's going on. Americans will be pissed. These people that actually put Al Qaeda in power, but Al Qaeda's gonna still be Al Qaeda. They can't help themselves, so they doing what Al Qaeda do over there. They over there terrorizing, man. Them people don't give a damn about running no goddamn government. Them people are bandits and thieves. They're looking for treasure and chopping off people's heads if you don't tell them where the gold is hidden.
Makeover that CNN, excuse me, and CNN and the New York Times tried to give them has been just as quickly washed away. Beheadings have begun. The murder of people for no other reason than their religious affiliation has begun. Social media is filled with videos too lurid.
You're not gonna see this. They're not gonna show them. See, it already begun. These people, they couldn't even wait to start doing this type of shit. But they on drugs. They hyped up. That's what they have conquered Syria. No, they want to do it like the old days. They want 1,000. They want 100 wives and 1,000 concubines. And everybody woman getting took. That's a fact. You better submit, infidel, and you become Islamic today, or your head getting chopped off. Unless the camera, let's CNN crew around.
For me to recommend that you watch, and you'll never see them in the mainstream media because they're filled with the horrors, real and alleged, real and false, of the outgoing regime. And they have no interest in showing you what it is that they have just encouraged into power. But this Syria story is not just a local story, and certainly not for me, who have spent all their lives, people like me, supporting the idea of an Arab nation of all kinds of religions, and none stretching from Marrakesh all the way to Bahrain, 350 million people with a common language, with a common culture, believing in one single God. What a power I always argued it could be. But that idea is dead now. They may come back in the lifetime of...
It's only one group of individuals on this planet, man, that's disciplined enough, I don't know why, to stay together and take on the whole fucking world, man. And that's those people who call themselves Europeans. That's serious business. They've been doing that shit since fuck NATO. I told you they've been NATO when NATO came here and colonized. They NATO over there in Israel, you see. NATO, they went into Asia. Man, these people been doing that. The Africans, they don't want to come together. They don't want to stick together. They want to be at each other's throat, backbite. The Arabs, the same thing. You watching it. I didn't contemplate this. It's only motherfuckers. And I don't know how, but they are disciplined at it. And they won't get Russia out the way. If they can get Russia out the way, these motherfuckers will rule the world for 2,000-3,000 motherfucking. If they can get Russia out the way, Russia's the only thing in the way. Man, for everybody getting back in chains. Man.
Of my children or their children, but it's definitely dead for now. And it's just one of the corpses lying in the debris of the destruction of Damascus. But there are many others. The reason I quoted Rumi earlier about the fools and the facts, I still see and have heard from people who consider themselves to be supporters of the Palestinian cause. I see Palestinian flags in their bios. And I see underneath those bios celebration at the destruction of the Syrian Arab Republic. They don't seem to realize that with the destruction of Syria came the destruction of the Palestinian struggle. Of course, the Palestinian people themselves will struggle until the last bullet runs out. But the last bullet will run out very soon, you know. I don't know if these fools are fully appraised of that singular fact. That every bullet, every one.
I've been in the chat rooms arguing with them, these different Islamic channels, who sat here and fooled the world, had me fooled. These bastards sitting here talking about Palestine like George saying, Palestine, 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 Palestine. But then they cheered on the destruction of Syria. Right now, you go to Al Jazeera, you go a lot of, I won't even watch Al Jazeera right now. They so happy Syria overthrown. I'm like, oh, y'all bastards, oh, y'all want the Islamic Caliphate. Do y'all want Palestine to be an Islamic Caliphate? Because I'm like, well, I don't understand. Like George, George pissed off too. George, me too, George. These bastards cheering on the destruction of Syria. Syria was the only way Hamas was getting weapons. Rest of y'all motherfuckers ain't gonna do it. That's when I said and said, oh man, y'all motherfuckers, oh, y'all want jihad. Y'all want Islamic Caliphate. Oh, that's what y'all want. Y'all don't want secular nations. See, deep down inside, y'all don't really like the Christians. Okay, bitch. Y'all is the racists. Y'all got themselves.
In the hands of any Palestinian freedom fighter.
It's over for Palestine.
Came through Syria.
And I've been putting it in their It's over for Palestine, nigga. They can kill. It's a wrap. The majority of those Muslims who cheered on Syria, you done it to your goddamn self, nigga. You didn't help Iran. Okay, good. It's over for Palestine. Because the Arab world not gonna arm them. That was coming from the Shiite resistance, and you just cheered the end of that. So we're gonna sit back and see the end. And I don't want the people to get home, but it's over for them. They gotta be slaves to the US and Israel. Now, that's a fact. Nobody gonna do shit for Palestine now. That just ended in Syria.
From Iran.
They done it to themselves.
It didn't come from anywhere else. It couldn't come from anywhere else. It wouldn't have come from anywhere else. There's an amazing number of fools completely blind to that fact.
Completely blind.
Of course, the Palestinian people will continue to feel that they are a people.
Even the Palestinians, even the Palestinians released a message saluting the new leaders of Syria. Oh man, the new leaders of Syria already said they're not sending y'all shit. And they're not finna go against Israel. It's over for you. You fought a good fight. But now, sooner or later, we're gonna wake up to Hamas unconditional surrender. And let me tell you this: any peace treaty by Israel to Hamas right now is just to string this bullshit along, because Israel gonna need a bad guy so they can always talk. Because Hamas is finished. So if Israel don't get a total surrender, it's because they're trying to keep them in the game, because nobody gonna send them no weapons no more. So I don't want to hear nothing about no motherfucking ceasefire. Any ceasefire, oh man, y'all, this is a game. Y'all bastards y'all want to do this shit 30 more motherfucking years. You're gonna attack them 5 years from now. No, you can finish it right now and make
with their teeth
surrender
if necessary. But their teeth may also very soon be destroyed. The only thing stopping now, this night, the opening of the gates of Rafah and the driving out of 2 million Palestinian refugees in Gaza.
Yeah.
As the north of Gaza has been ethnically completely cleansed, the south of Gaza can be completely cleansed by the simple act of opening the gate which Israel controls.
Cowards, man. The majority of the Arab world, they're cowards, man. They cowards. They don't want to. I thought they was ready to die. Hell no. They had the extremists who want jihad. The majority of the Arab world, they cowards. These women and children being genocided. They're not flocking to Israel to fight. They're not doing shit. And they cheering on Israel and the U.S. destroying the people that did try to do the fight. You see? They was only good at invading Africa and enslaving and helping be colonizers. They got themselves. Now, I'm not talking about the regular Arab people, not them. They lead us. And then when they lead us, get overthrown, those who get in power, you see? I hate that this had to come to this. They took out Gaddafi, and cheered it and put black people in cages, you see? Karma is fucked up.
At Rafah and driving all 2 million of them into the Sinai Desert in Egypt. Who's going to stop them? Who could stop them? Who would stop them? The answer to both those questions is nobody. So the only thing stopping it is Netanyahu's unwillingness for the moment to do it. But for how long will you be able to count on that unwillingness? Until January 20th? Maybe on January 20th? Maybe before the attack on Iraq that I talked about earlier begins? Maybe when it's completed? Or maybe when it's happening? One way or another, Gaza is done for. Gaza is finished. Only a week ago, it was possible to talk about a strategic defeat of Israel that would deliver a Palestinian state. Iran was a regional superpower only a week ago. Syria was the transmission belt for the supply of the Lebanese resistance, of the Palestinian resistance. Now it is neither. And Iran is a local superpower with no regional potential or capabilities at all. Iran's still the big dog in the Persian Gulf, but it now has no crescent through which to exert its influence for the liberation of Palestine. And looking at my watch, it doesn't look likely that their much promised retaliation of Israeli crimes against them is going to.
Even with, I can't let Iran get off the hook. They wasn't trying to liberate no fucking Palestine, man. They just was playing politics and sticking it to the Israelis and the U.S. They have a military, man. They super. See, I liberate Palestine, man. March your army. See, none of these people was gonna liberate no Palestine. The Palestinians are paying a deadly price for believing in any of these people like that. You know, and Hezbollah, they did what they could, and they fucking paid a deadly price. All their leaders got whacked. That's just serious business, you know. But liberate them people ain't gonna liberate no Palestine. They scared of Israel and the U.S. They don't want to fight for real, or they would be fighting. The Arab world will never do shit. Now we see in our lifetime, they're not gonna do shit about the Palestinian situation.
To come after all, a recognition of the truth that Iran, as well as Russia, as well as Syria, and as well as all the Arabs, are much diminished now in the wake of the great victory of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, with hardly a shot being fired in the former Syrian Arab Republic. You can celebrate that if you like, and there's a remarkable number of you doing so, but I can only be sad about it. Not because I loved Bashar al-Assad any more than I loved Saddam Hussein, but because the destruction of Arab power can only, as a matter of simple logic, lead to the strengthening of other powers adjacent. The destruction of Arab Iraq meant the strengthening of Persian Iran. The destruction of Arab Syria means the strengthening of the former colonial power in Turkey and a strengthening of the now occupying power of Netanyahu's Israel. It has been, you don't like to hear this, a stupendous success for Benjamin Netanyahu. It has been a stupendous success for Joe Biden in the dog days of his, until then, ill-starred presidential term. Anything that reduces Iran, reduces Russia, reduces China, increases the power and strength of the United States of America. These are simple geopolitical facts. You make
Putin not cutthroat enough. The U.S. If the U.S. would have been in control of Syria and they would have had somebody in power, they would have, and he wanted to flee, they would have just killed him and then put his general in power. They would have never allowed that man to flee to the U.S. and then lose the fucking country. No, they'll put your nephew in charge, your uncle, your wife. That ain't for to lose. See, Putin, but I read in the article yesterday, Putin is the one who told him once they seen it was over for Assad and that he was going to lose Damascus, they snuck him out of there. They wouldn't even let his army kill him. But Putin have not met with him yet. The Russians say Putin don't plan on meeting with him. Putin is absolutely, totally disappointed in him for not staying to the end and dying in his country like a man and having the balls. But this dude is a doctor, like we heard. He really wasn't about that life. He was forced into this life. You know what I'm saying?
Make one of them stronger, you make the other weaker, and vice versa. And that's where we now are. There is no Arab national movement. There are heroic and beautiful individuals who exemplify it, who embody it, like my dear friend Man Bashur in Lebanon, who will be crying. I know there are many such people in all Arab countries, but they add up to less than a row of beans in the new political dispensation. Now there are only two kinds of Arabs.
Oh, George giving it to him.
The Takfiri, religious fanatics, who will takfir any dissent from their religious, never mind their political line, and the out-and-out slaves. But these are two sides of the same coin, you see. Because such Takfiri Islamist fanaticism can never liberate the Arabs, has no wish to liberate the Arabs, doesn't even see itself as Arab. There were only 25,000 fighters in Golani's army, and 5,000 of those were Chinamen. Chinamen, Uyghurs, who don't even speak Arabic, don't even know who the Arab music stars whose albums they're burning right now, don't even know who they are. Never tasted Syrian hummus or shakshuka. Don't care for it. They eat rice for their breakfast, you see. 5,000 out of 25,000 are Chinamen. Thousands more are Turkomen, Albanians, Ukrainians, who played a bigger role in the weekend's events than we hitherto imagined. They sent hundreds of drones, the Ukrainian regime, to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and sent 20 operators with them, the better to target them. So the ISIS-Al-Qaeda invasion, which has succeeded in taking over Syria, isn't even Arab. Never mind have an Arab consciousness about the unity of the Arab world. And they're very useful idiots indeed. As Israel found when, without firing a shot, they expanded into Syria 3 times the size of the Gaza Strip and took all the commanding heights forever, eternally, as Netanyahu has declared. That suits the West very well. They can murder their own people. Who cares? They can murder their Christians. Who cares? They can murder their religious minorities. Who cares? As long as they don't threaten Israel, which, as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said so eloquently yesterday, is our aircraft carrier in the Middle East, is our eyes and ears in the Middle East, is the means by which we direct events in the Middle East. Congratulations, Bobby, at least you're willing to tell the truth the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Or you can go the whole hog and be a slave. You can be a slave regime. Like the other frontline states, you can bark when you are ordered to. You can hang out your tongue and pant. And you can beg like a dog begs. You might even get the World Cup thrown in 2034 if you do. So the new world isn't being born after all. The old world isn't dying after all. The new world is still a pregnancy. It may, indeed, I believe, will have to one day come, but it ain't here yet. China issued no more than a couple of cross communiques about the events at the weekend, even though it's the end of the Silk Road, thousands of years in the making. The Russians left town. The full fruit of the 50-year friendship treaty with Syria being a billet and a doctor's surgery to work in Moscow for the departed President Bashar al-Assad and his family. Good luck to them. I didn't want them to end the way that Saddam ended. I wouldn't want them, God forbid, to end the way that Gaddafi ended. But maybe he should have at least made a televised address before he scuttled off to Moscow, killing off forever the very idea of Syria. Syria was a shining light, you know, and for centuries. They threw their lot in with the West during the First World War. They were persuaded by Lawrence of Arabia that if they took up arms against the Ottomans and helped the West to defeat them, that the West in return would give Arab independence, Arab unity, and give Jerusalem the status that it deserved. What they did not know, or if they knew, chose to ignore, was that in the back room, Mr. Sykes and Mr. Picot were cooking up the books, which would divide the Arabs and which would grant Jerusalem to a Zionist state, which now lies at the heart of all this darkness. We're going to discuss it tonight with two perfect guests. Coming up right after this is Richard Medhurst. Says to you and your family, your country has died, has it not?
Yeah, George, it has. It's it's interesting watching them whitewash what's going on in the media. You know, they in Britain at least, and I think it's been changed in the US now, but HTS is a prescribed organization. You'll recall they arrested me for under the Terrorism Act, but I haven't seen anyone at the Telegraph or at the BBC or Sky News being arrested for glorifying HTS. So, you know, that it's funny how the Terrorism Act just randomly applies when you're serving, you're whitewashing a group that serves the interests of MI6 in Israel and Turkey. But yeah, the country has died. It has died, and things are deteriorating rapidly. You know, they said initially that they'll protect journalists, that anyone who harasses journalists will be sent to prison, that all minorities will have protections, that soldiers will be given amnesty. But everything we've been seeing in the last 48 hours indicates the opposite. Now, we can't tell, whether it's just HTS that's doing that, which is Al Qaeda, right? We should be very clear. HTS is Al Qaeda, but you have about 37 other factions that are running around the country, and even if it's the other factions, what kind of rule is this, or rule of law, when you can just walk around executing people? Because that's what's happening. We have public beatings, public executions. There are videos, for example, of ISIS trucks driving down Christian neighborhoods, firing AKs into the air. I'm hearing that they've told Christians not to, put out Christmas decorations, although I haven't verified that yet, but I can definitely imagine it already having happened in certain areas in Syria now. And just yesterday, there's a Christian journalist, so like me, ticks both boxes, being harassed about her religion inside of a Christian neighborhood. So yeah, the country's died, and they want to make it about Bashar al-Assad. It's not about Bashar al-Assad. It's about the secularism that Syria had. It's about its diversity, its pluralism. That is what has died, and that is definitely worth mourning.
But its territorial integrity has also died. It was already gravely wounded. Parts of Syria had been amputated and were already under the control of the new Ottoman emperor, Erdogan, of Kurdish rebel groups backed, controlled by the United States. But now the Turkish and above all the Israeli incursions into the country mean that even the map of Syria has died.
Yeah, that's correct. It's the second time too, or third time actually, because if you look at Sykes-Picot, when they chopped Syria up into smaller pieces. You were talking about Lawrence of Arabia just before the break. So shortly after the Ottomans were defeated, France and Britain carved up Syria into smaller pieces. That they created Israel. They wanted to put all the Christians in Lebanon, and they gave parts of Syria to Turkey, to Iraq, and now in 2019, after 2019, you had Turkey occupying Idlib in northern Syria. And that's where a lot of these terrorist groups were based, including HTS for the last couple of years. And they weren't even using Syrian currency anymore in Idlib. They were using Turkish currency for the last couple of years. So it was de facto annexed by Turkey, a NATO member. And the United States was stealing all the oil east of the Euphrates with the Kurdish SDF. And Israel was occupying the Golan Heights, but now for a third time they've taken even more land. Syria has just had its highest peak in the country, Mount Hermon, which is in the Golan Heights, captured by Israel. This is a strategic prize of enormous proportions. Not only does it have a lot of water in it, but it's a vantage point. So militarily speaking, it overlooks Israeli troop positions. It's just a prized asset for Syria's defenses. And these people who claim to represent Syria's interests, who've just taken over Damascus, didn't bother fighting the Israelis. They just let them have it without a fight, without firing a shot. So in whose interests are they acting? So it's not only they've given away land, which is even 1 centimeter of that land is precious, but also strategic land. And in addition to that, of course, the water resources, Israel's already, I think 1/3 of their drinking water is stolen from Syria regularly from the Golan, but now they probably have more of it. And, the problem is that Israel has gone and hollowed out the entire military infrastructure that Syria had left. So any government that comes along now is not going to be sovereign or legitimate. It's a neutered shadow of its former self. Not to mention that it's being run by a bunch of head-chopping lunatics. So Syria has no navy left. It's got no missiles left. It's got no air force left. All of it has been destroyed. Research laboratories, you name it. This is the biggest Israeli Air Force campaign in history. And they've destroyed Syria's defenses. They have left it defenseless. And these people in Damascus who've taken over now let that happen.
Well, I always used to say about the Soviet Union, another country from the past, that a state for which no one will fight, a state for which no one is prepared to die, is a state which has come to the end of its usefulness. That was true of the Soviet Union. It's equally true of Syria. Nobody fought to defend it. In fact, I've seen video of Russians driving one way towards the front, and thousands upon thousands of Syrian soldiers walking in the opposite direction. Of course, there are always many reasons for the collapse of a state. But in summary, if you can, because it's a long story, what was it at the end that precipitated this really unprecedented collapse?
I really couldn't say for sure, George. There are many factors. I think the sanctions really served as one of the final nails in the coffin, right? Plural. Because they, even though the borders, or if you will, the battle lines, rather, didn't move for the last couple of years since 2019 until now, and things were relatively stable, the sanctions really, really crippled the country. And those were put in place by Donald Trump, the Caesar Act sanctions. They crippled the country. They destroyed it. I mean, but last time I was in Syria, you could exchange €1 or $1 for, 50, 60 Syrian pounds. So it's pretty good, and today it's like 13,000 or something. So you can see how they've destroyed the currency through inflation and devaluation. It's awful, and people suffered under that. And I'm assuming that made it difficult to pay wages as well. But I can't imagine. I know the video you're talking about, by the way, with the Russians cursing in the truck as they're driving past. I was trying to understand like what precipitated the fact that all of these troops are just giving up. And I'm thinking, and it's just my hunch. I don't have any proof for this, but it's my hunch that there was maybe some sort of coup. That and I'm talking in the top brass of the military. Maybe those people were bought off. Maybe they themselves were exhausted, as the army was itself. I don't know what the reason was, but my hunch is maybe they were bought. They told the troops to surrender. And by the time Assad realized what was going on, it was too late, and he just fled to Moscow. This is just one scenario that I'm suggesting. I don't know if it's 100% true. I think we'll find out in good time and in due course. But it was the sanctions really did the country, and not to mention the fact that 1/4 of Syria's revenue depended on oil. 1/4 of the government's revenue. That's what subsidizes free education, free healthcare, renovation of public infrastructure. And the Americans were stealing that for the last couple of years. So you can imagine that's 1/4 of the government's revenue gone out the window. All these years, and before the Americans and the SDF, Kurdish SDF, was stealing it, ISIS was stealing it and selling it to Turkey. So for years and years, they've been hollowing out the state's resources, and these are things that people's livelihoods depended on, that the standard of living depended on, and I think it just the war really ground everybody down. Some deal was obviously made. Not one bullet was fired. We have to remember that they took over the country. Al-Qaeda took over the country without a fight. So that means a deal was made, and we'll find out at what point. But Erdogan is clearly behind this. I think we shouldn't. We talk about the US and we talk about Israel. We shouldn't forget the role that Turkey has played. Turkey kept Al-Qaeda. They kept Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and al-Jolani nice and cozied up inside of Idlib. They financed a lot of these troops. They kept them safe. They gave them salaries. And they allowed all of these foreign fighters to come into Syria in the first place, already back in 2011, 2012 and onwards. So they opened the gates of hell onto Syria and destroyed the country.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got to hand it to them. We are journalists, after all. Our defeat is their victory. And there's no point in denying that. The question for me is Turkey acting independently, or is it acting as an adjunct of the United States? Now, the Iranian leader, in his talk today, Khamenei, he obliquely referred to Turkey as a neighboring country, which played a role, but he tried to place the main responsibility on the United States and Israel. Now, that may have been self-serving on his part, because today a very big trade deal between Turkey and Iran was announced. I don't know. but I'd be interested in your theory. To what extent is Turkey now an independent power, acting separately and independently of the United States?
Well, I know that people are aware that Turkey and the US are NATO allies and members. Turkey actually has one of the most important armies in NATO. So they have that common interest of seeing Syria destroyed, but for various reasons. The United States has for a long time wanted to control the resources there, but Turkey wants to get rid of the Kurds, right? It considers the PKK, the Kurdish Workers' Party, and its affiliate inside of Syria, the YPG, to be terrorist groups. And it basically classifies them as terrorists to persecute them. I mean, what they've done now is they've effectively encircled the Kurds inside of Syria by driving Al-Qaeda down into Damascus. And then, of course, they've got them from the north. So these are the areas of Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor, everything that's east of the Euphrates. So in that regard, Turkey is acting independently, and Erdogan wants to make sure that no Kurdish state emerges. And it's just persecution, really. You know, there's no other way around it. They were cutting water to these areas many times. I covered that, how, you know, they would just cut off the water supply to everybody inside of Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor, just for the sake of making sure that Kurds wouldn't get water. So in that aspect, Turkey has a different agenda from the Americans, because the Americans work with the Kurds to take the oil, take the crops, and you know, they then drive that off into Iraq, into their bases there, and make money off of it. And you know, it's so in that regard, they've got different agendas. But Syria is the link that was the lifeline between Iran, Iraq, and Lebanon and Palestine. It's a geographical link between all of them, and a political one. Okay, I wish people would look at maps more often and read maps more often, because it makes things very clear. So, you know, Erdogan has been supplying oil to the Israelis from Azerbaijan, from Baku, and helping them with their war effort. He's helping Israel commit genocide in Palestine, despite all of his rhetoric. So Erdogan, along with the United States and along with Israel, it's in their interest to stop Syria acting as a link, a natural link between Iran, Iraq, and Lebanon, Palestine. They wanted to destroy this, you know, resistance axis for quite a while, and they've essentially conspired to do it together. But everybody wins. You know, the Americans win, Israel wins, and Turkey wins, and Al Qaeda wins. So their interests happened to all converge at the same time, and I think we'll find out in due course, you know, whether. By that point, Iran and Russia, who were the main backers of Bashar al-Assad, were even in a position to do anything about it. I think by the time everything had fallen apart, I think maybe they hadn't caught on, and that's why they just got Assad over to Moscow. Because why didn't they do it last year, for example? Or why didn't he resign 10 years ago? Why only now? It's not a coincidence that this started right during the ceasefire in Lebanon. So Israel's been systematically going, you know, from Gaza to Lebanon to Syria, and I think Iran is next on the chopping block, I'm afraid.
Well, perhaps Iraq first. Now, the Iranians predict, and we've seen this movie before, of course, when ISIS drove across the desert in their Toyotas, in their thousands, and took over Iraq's second city of Mosul. Again, a city filled with ethnic and religious minorities, and had a reign of terror there. It's where ISIS first came to the notice of the general public. Do you think they
Well, overnight, new videos emerging across Syria of Christians and other civilians, like farmers, being rounded up, throwing their hands up in the air, saying, "We surrender." Then they're being tortured, shot, and killed and in public fashion as well. It's being done by the very same people, of course, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, that we fought for years, people who are on the terrorist watch list. But now suddenly they're our friends. The rebranding of ISIS and Al-Qaeda is happening in real time. Congressman Thomas Massie wrote this yesterday on X. I've been actively opposed to the U.S. policy, the Obama, Clinton, Kerry, Biden policy of destabilizing the government of Syria for as long as I've been in Congress. Please pray for the Syrian Christians who have survived our meddling up to this point. And that's exactly what it is: meddling, destabilizing, and destroying what was once one of the most peaceful countries in the world. Congressman Thomas Massie joins us from Capitol Hill today. Congressman, great to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Clayton. Yeah, I'm worried about the people there. And as you well point out, it's a terrorist organization. And I'm not just pulling that out of a hat or making that up. They're designated as a terrorist organization by our own government. The U.S. government designates the group that's now in control of Syria as a terrorist organization. And they evolved from Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, and they claim to have severed ties with them, but we still designate them as terrorists. So you have a lot of people who are celebrating. I think it's the Schadenfreude of Russia being embarrassed here, or Iran being embarrassed, because in this proxy civil war, Russia and Iran was on one side and the U.S. was on the other. Now, we were aligned with the terrorists, ironically, and they were aligned with the dictator. There are no winners in this overthrow of the government, in my opinion. Yeah, the trains may run on time. They keep the electricity on, but I think it's bad news for Christians and other minorities there. Assad, nobody says that he's a paragon of virtue, but he did keep the Christians from being persecuted while he was in power. Hundreds of thousands have fled, are in exile, and the ones who remained are in greater peril now, as you point out from the videos, than they were just a week ago. And let's talk about the timing of this. Remember, Tulsi Gabbard was in Congress, and she and I collaborated on a lot of these efforts to stop our meddling, the U.S. meddling in Syria. And now she's been named as the head of DNI. Well, I think that was the signal to the deep state to go in for the kill and get this over with, because Trump and some of his nominees like Tulsi Gabbard are signaling that we are not going to carry on the policies of Obama and the deep state.
So that's why I've been thinking that we've been talking about that on our show, that it seemed the timing of all of this just seems incredibly fishy. So it is your assessment that this was really an effort here before Trump gets into office to go in and basically put in place this sort of deep state CIA plan in Syria. It's clear as day to you, it seems.
It's clear as day to me. And, whether it was led by the United States or whether we just encouraged it, definitely the timing is not a mistake. When you find a turtle on a fence post, it didn't get there by accident. So, for instance, some of the stronger powers that be, like Israel, they used their military forces to bomb the dozens of jets and helicopters in Syria. Basically, what these terrorists couldn't do, other people in the Middle East hurry up and did here in this last week to make sure that Assad didn't have the typical resources that a government would have to respond to these threats.
You bring up a great point about Assad. You can love him or hate him. You can have your opinions about him. We've covered extensively, though, the cover-up from the Obama administration and the fake chemical attack in Duma,
yes,
which has now been widely debunked. The white helmets, of course, you can look deeply into it if you want. We don't have time today to talk all about that, but that's been widely debunked. And it is amazing when you saw all of these forces, these rebel freedom fighters now taking over Damascus and Aleppo and pouring in. It's as if, I saw a post about this yesterday by former UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter, who said, it's almost as if we don't care about the non-existent chemical weapons there because they've just taken over whatever was there, whatever sort of stockpiles were there. There's no mention of any of it from the Biden administration that we're now worried about all of Assad's chemical weapons. It's almost as if he says that we knew they didn't exist all along. It was a phony story. It was a fake story. And you have evidence now of Al-Qaeda and ISIS rebranded, taking over this area. And we don't say a word about all of Assad's chemical weapons.
That is a great point that Scott makes. Look, I debunked this stuff in real time, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2019, when they were basically making up these fake chemical attacks. I went on CNN and spoke truth to power. I'm like, look, why would Assad use chemical weapons to entice us into this war? And the reality is he wouldn't have done it. There's no logical sense in doing it. Yet they used opportunities that were either amplified, exaggerated, or false flag created. And they did this in like 2016. And I was calling it out. I was going on TV and saying, this doesn't make sense. This is propaganda. And I was telling the propagandists that they were propaganda. They didn't like it. They didn't invite me back on.
No, and now you're seeing the rebranding happening in real time, Congressman, of, whatever you want to call them, HTS, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whatever the name change, the ideology, Al-Nusra, the ideology remains the same, right? Chanting in the street about killing Christians and Jews and so forth. And now you see the Biden administration rebranding them. And yesterday, the Washington Post published a story saying that, in fact, there's real debate inside the Biden administration right now whether or not to remove them from the terrorist watch list and remove the $10 million bounty on the head of their leader, Jolani. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, they didn't go out and hire an army. These are basically militias with an ideology. They're motivated by an ideology. And when they said they severed their ties with Al-Qaeda, which is where they came from in 2016 or whenever, they couldn't sever their ties with the ideology because their fighters are motivated by religious ideology, and they're the same fighters. They didn't go out and hire a new set of militia. And so I'm not buying it myself that they are somehow now separate and they've extinguished that radical ideology.
From a congressional perspective, sir, you've been really one of the few voices here speaking out against our involvement in Syria. I know Congressman Matt Gaetz as well. That got voted down. It's like you're fighting an uphill battle against these globalists and these warmongers, the military-industrial complex that wants us involved there. I know the Biden administration has already said we're going to be sending weapons. We're going to do what we can to help these freedom fighters. I love that we call them freedom fighters and rebels. What are you going to do in Congress? What are you able to do in Congress to try to stop any sort of further meddling in this country and maybe try to help these people who are being slaughtered, these Christians and otherwise?
Well, look, a lot of this is up to Trump's CIA director and State Department. And that's because we have waged a secret war, a secret support for these rebels, according to New York Times. I always have to say that because I may be in possession of information I can't tell you. But if the New York Times tells you that we spent, starting in 2013, $1 billion in Syria in covert operations, then maybe the New York Times knows something. And when Pompeo came in under Trump, he did say that he was going to reverse that policy of the secret Civil War support, the secret, not secret support that we were providing. What can I do in Congress? I can offer amendments, for instance, to try to defund these things. We're going to pass an NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, here in the next week that ironically has written into the base text support for both sides of this war. And it's obsolete already. The language of this thing is obsolete. It's like you said, who owns the chemical weapons now? The terrorists control Syria. Let's put air quotes around the chemical weapons that, the propagandists claim that Assad was using. Who owns those? The same question you could apply to this National Defense Authorization Act that Congress is going to pass. Who are we giving the money to now that one side has prevailed when the bill says we're going to give money to both sides?
I remember that famous Los Angeles Times headline from like 10 years ago that says the Pentagon is basically fighting the CIA in Syria. We're funding the Pentagon side. We're funding the CIA side. Elon Musk retweeted that the other day. Of course, that's an old headline, but it's the truth. And do you think that the incoming Trump administration and whoever is going to be running the deep state CIA will have an appetite to walk away from these things and to put an end to it? Do you think Trump is kind of fully versed on this like you are?
Well, I think if Tulsi Gabbard gets confirmed, Director of National Intelligence, he's going to be fully informed on this. She doesn't pull punches. She's not going to hide stuff from him. And they're not allowed legally to hide stuff from her. Now, of course, they're going to try to, but that's why it's so important that she gets confirmed. I don't want to go through the list, get myself in trouble here and say which of the nominations I think are great, which are not so great. But Tulsi is great. We got to make sure people like her and RFK Jr. get their confirmations and are in there, rubbing elbows with the other folks who are in there, because there's going to be competition in Trump's administration. Look, we've got congressional leaders here. I say they've got the meat hooks already in them. The deep state has their meat hooks in our congressional leaders, and they're not going to change. At some point, there is going to be a sort of a come to Jesus moment, I think, in the Trump administration. Right now, it's all kumbaya. You've got our leaders here in Congress saying, "Oh, we're going to support Trump," but the problem is they're puppets of globalists and lobbyists for the military-industrial complex. And at some point, they're going to have to resolve their obligations to the military-industrial complex and their obligations to the mandate that Trump has, which is to get us out of all these stupid, meddling affairs all over the globe. And that's going to be interesting. When I see that conflict getting glossed over, and for instance, Trump's agenda, which is the American agenda, they put us, and I told President Trump, you've got 6 months to basically operate or capitalize on the mandate that you have. And once we go 6 months into this administration, it's just going to tie him up like a boxer that hugs the other boxer and keep him from getting things done. They'll try to start some other scandal with his administration, with people in his administration. They'll start trying to cancel people like Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. That's already begun. So, what is my role? My role is I've got a front row seat to some of these arguments and some of the cover-ups. And, I'll come on your show and speak truth to power when I see it.
Well, we would love that. And you'd have a platform here anytime, Congressman, because we hold you in very high regard as one of the few voices of truth on Capitol Hill. Thank you so much for what you're doing and holding truth to power. Overnight, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released one of the funniest videos that I've seen in a long time. It's like a Saturday Night Live bit, claiming that Israel has no desire or intentions to interfere in Syria's internal affairs. Watch this comedy. And as Caitlin Johnstone wrote this morning, quote, only Israel could invade and occupy large stretches of a country, bomb it 480 times in 48 hours, destroy 80% of its military defenses, and then claim it has no intention of interfering in that country's internal affairs. She nails it. Meanwhile, the rebranding of the CIA-backed brutal terrorists now controlling Syria is happening in real time. But our next guest says this rebranding didn't start just this week. After the occupation by the Biden administration, it's been happening for years. Dan Cohen from Uncaptured Media is all over this story and joins me now. Dan, good to see you. So how far back does this go?
Well, I began covering the Syria conflict, the dirty war on Syria, in 2016. And at that point, it became very clear to me that the U.S. was not very secretly funding, arming, training, and not only the U.S., its allies in the UK, Qatar, Turkey, the UAE, Saudi Arabia were funding and arming and training a variety of terrorist groups, what the US government has acknowledged as terrorist groups, and many of them are officially listed as terrorist groups, in order to destroy Syria's sovereignty. It was never about Assad himself or the Syrian prisons or anything like that. It was about destroying Syria. And that's what they've just achieved. Now, in order to do that, of course, they had to wage an incredible propaganda campaign to convince Americans that Al-Qaeda was actually the good guys. I mean, I'm old enough, and I assume most of our viewers are, and I know you were around, Clayton, when 9/11 happened, and the government said Al-Qaeda did it, and we have to launch wars on Afghanistan and then Iraq and have permanent war on terror, some amorphous concept, all over the globe. And that's never actually stopped. But in the middle of that, there was a rebranding effort to make Al-Qaeda into the heroes against the evil dictator Assad. And when I first really became aware of it or when I started documenting it, was 2017. And that was when the Syrian government, with the help of Hezbollah and Russia, beat back these terrorist militias from the cities they occupied. And I was here in Washington, D.C. on a short visit, and there happened to be a screening in Congress of a film called Cries from Syria by a Russian-American director whose previous film was called Oy Vey, My Son is Gay. His name's Yevgeny Afanevsky. And then he somehow got to become a geopolitical expert of sorts on Syria and on Ukraine, the two, big U.S. dirty wars. And so I went to this film screening. There were a number of very neoconservative members of Congress there, like Adam Kinzinger, the kind of young man's John McCain. There was S.E. Cupp, the CNN, at that time, a CNN host. There was, a number of these figures. And one of them was a guy named Charles Lister, who is a so-called expert at the Middle East Institute, which is a think tank here in DC, funded by Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, all of the same regimes that are funding these terrorist groups to destroy Syria. So I want to show this clip of what I actually caught Charles Lister. I recorded him saying in Washington, D.C. Before his audience in the U.S. Capitol, Lister portrayed Al-Qaeda as a popular movement with broad support in Syria.
Al-Qaeda has really got it right, I hate to say.
He then went on to claim Al-Qaeda is more moderate than ISIS, despite the fact that the two groups share the same genocidal ideology.
Although they've become more aggressive and more hardline over time, they are still very distinctly different to ISIS. Their strategy is so much more effective on the ground. They are winning hearts and minds.
So they really got it right. I mean, they're not like ISIS. These are good guys.
Yeah, they're like nice ISIS. They're Pal Qaeda is what I like to call them. It was amazing because if you were paying attention to what was happening in Idlib province in northwestern Syria, where Al-Qaeda, then it was called Jabhat Fatah al-Sham, then, they went through a series of rebrands from Jabhat al-Nusra, which was the original Al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria. Then it became Jabhat Fatah al-Sham. Then it became HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is the one that they're using today. And they formally broke links with Al-Qaeda, but the ideology is completely the same. It's like when Blackwater, rebranded after its scandals and became Academy, and is, it's just again and again it happens. So they just expect we're going to swallow that down. But I mean, it was just amazing for me to see this open glorification of Al-Qaeda as some popular group, when, if you're paying attention to what was going on in Idlib, there were summary executions of women simply accused of adultery in the street. They're indoctrinating generations of children to be terrorists. And I hate to say that, but that's the sad truth. And here in Washington, they're saying, oh, this is actually very moderate. And then fast forward to 2019 when I think it was 2019 when the U.S. took out al-Baghdadi. The Trump administration took out al-Baghdadi in Idlib province. Well, al-Baghdadi at that point was basically toothless. He was not really running anything in Idlib province. Al-Jolani, the guy who's now running Syria, was running Idlib at that point. And it's very curious to me why the U.S. took out Baghdadi, but all this time did not want to take out Al-Jolani, because I think he is basically a NATO asset. I mean, everything he did, and he's backed by Turkey. Everything came through Turkey. The whole dirty war on Syria was basically run through southern Turkey. And so that's why he was allowed to live and continue to organize, why he was had a basically normal, advanced NATO military capabilities, so they could so easily overrun the Syrian military. So, I mean, this really goes back to the mid 2000s is when I kind of first began documenting it. And remember that Netflix is staffed by a bunch of former Obama administration officials. When the Obama administration ended, they all went into Netflix so they could basically do deep state propaganda.
It's remarkable. You know, we had Congressman Thomas Massie on the show yesterday who confirmed what you're saying here. He said he was debunking this in real time, and these people are on the current U.S. terrorist watch list. Like, this isn't some sort of fabrication, right? They've been on the terrorist watch list in the United States. So it's amazing to me. And so, wow. I mean, this is a big revelation that Jolani, this terrorist, is likely a NATO asset, basically a CIA asset, who's now, the reason they didn't kill him is because they were controlling him and allowing this to happen ahead of President Trump taking office on January 20th. There was a rush to kind of push this through. That's Congressman Massey's position on this, that there was a speed up process to make this happen sooner rather than later, so that President Trump couldn't do anything about it, essentially. And then we see all of these reports over the past 24 hours of huge pallets of money showing up as well to fund, basically handing them tens of millions of dollars in funding, weapons. So basically funding and arming HTS, these terrorists in Syria.
Exactly. Yes, the congressman is absolutely right. This is clearly done before President Trump can take office with his anti-war sensibilities. I mean, I did not vote for President Trump. I'm not really a fan of him, but the fact is he has contradictory positions in which he has instincts that are anti-interventionist, as he said in his tweet. This is not our fight. Let's stay out of it. Now, of course, President Trump also ordered the assassination of General Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general who was the lead anti-ISIS fighter, and he won't admit that, that was a huge boon to ISIS, and there were huge celebrations in Idlib province when he did that. But nonetheless, he is correct that, the U.S. should not get involved with this anymore. There's nothing good that will come from it. Yeah, I mean, this is just the reality of it.
It is, and it's really disturbing. What was your response to seeing Jolani on CNN? Like, this rebranding, they're elevating this guy and doing these, like, CNN and the Democratic media are just lifting these guys up. And you've seen the reports from CNN, as we featured here earlier in the show. These weird CNN reports from Syria showing just how oppressive everything has been, and now the terrorists, that these rebels that have taken over, it's going to be sunny skies now in Syria.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible to watch that Clarissa Ward piece where she obviously staged the quote unquote liberation of a prisoner from the Sadnaya prison, in which he's apparently been there for 3 days after everyone else was emptied out of the prison, and he claims to have not seen the sun for months and months, and he walks outside and he's well groomed, his beard is groomed, he's not starved, his fingernails are even clean, and he walks out and the first thing he does is look directly up at the sun. It's so clearly staged, and this is the same Clarissa Ward that faked being under attack by Hamas in Israel, totally staged a scene. And Clarissa Ward's her, she was so upset about the lack of intervention to overthrow Assad years ago that she said, "I'm no longer a journalist, I'm an activist." And she wrote some angry, deranged email to Ben Rhodes, who was a national security advisor, and
Under Obama.
said, yeah, exactly, under Obama, and and was just angry that the Syrian government had been hadn't been overthrown. And this is, you can't spell Clarissa without CIA. That's what I would say about Clarissa Ward. I mean, she's just one of them. Arwa Damon, who sniffed a supposedly sarin-laced backpack she found on the ground. That's how she determined it was sarin. Of course, CNN spread the 40 beheaded babies hoax to basically stimulate support for the genocide of Gaza. This is CNN. This is not journalism. This is not fact finding. This isn't about the Syrian people. This is about propaganda.
Yeah. No, it's a great summation of it. This rebranding of Al Qaeda as Pal-Qaeda. CNN is working lockstep with them in the deep. We see this in the media. We know that CNN, we know the New York Times, the Washington Post are just extensions of these deep state operatives in the intelligence community. And then the Americans, if they get 10 minutes of news a day and, they're after work, they have a busy day and they flip on CNN for a few minutes, they'll see this. They'll say, oh, wow, that's amazing. This guy was just liberated from a prison, and wow, these people have done great work. And then they go about their day taking care of their families. And this is how the propaganda spreads. So it's our job to make sure that it doesn't. And Dan has done an amazing job of this. Follow Dan over at his great website and YouTube channel, Uncaptured Media. And follow him on X as well. Dan, what's your X handle?
My X is at Dan Cohen 3000. My website is uncaptured.media. And if I can make one more point, Clayton, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I want Americans to think about the fact that Al Qaeda is now being rebranded by the minute as some kind of beneficial force. Yet after 9/11, our civil liberties were taken away. We had the Patriot Act. We had the creation of the Department of Homeland Security. We had everything we go through at TSA to this day, all this phony kind of theater about security, where if your toothpaste tube is slightly too big, they take it away because that could be somehow dangerous. When I go to the airport and I watch a mom who's traveling with 3 kids alone, and the container she has for her pumped breast milk has to be dumped out. All of that stuff is a result of what the national security state did as a pretext to fighting terrorism after 9/11. And now Al Qaeda is being rebranded as good, but our civil liberties, all that wiretapping, listening in on our conversations, that's not going away. That's here to stay. So are they going to give us that our freedoms, our liberties back now that Al Qaeda is good again? Of course not. But I think we just have to be able to think bigger and not be goldfish bouncing back and forth in the little goldfish bowl, and just turn around and keep going. There's a much bigger agenda to not only destroy Syria and destroy Gaza, but to destroy America, to take away our freedoms, exactly what they said that they were trying to stop, to destroy the social fabric of our society and implement pre-existing agendas.
No, that's one of the smartest points I've heard on this show in quite a while. And I really appreciate it. And think about it. Will they give us our civil liberties back now that Al Qaeda is our friend? And they took them away. We have to take off our shoes at the airport because of Al Qaeda terrorists trying to blow up aircraft and too much liquid in a toothpaste tube. You're exactly right about that. Well said. That's something for all of us to think about as you watch this propaganda unfolding. And I would like journalists to ask that question to the Biden administration. If you get to sit down, Kristen Welker over at NBC, you sat down with Trump. Will you sit down with Biden administration officials and press them about this rebranding of Al Qaeda? Now they're our friend at this holiday season. How many Americans would invite Al Qaeda over for their Christmas dinner? I wonder how many people would open up the doors for that. Dan, great to see you as always. And All right, let's do some UFO updates now, because a major update on the UFOs over America over the past 24 hours. And we had this report from the New Jersey State Police now admitting that they have revealed that unidentified drones are operating on a frequency that cannot be detected. Okay.
Now, there has been sightings in California. They're popping up in different states. I posted a orb last night in Galveston, Texas. It's a lot going on. Is this Project Bluebeam? Is it advanced technology? Are we being invaded? What the hell is going on? I know a lot of senators and congressmen are now, they're pissed off because they're finding out, like Trump said, it's a deep state, which is keeping information even from people who are so-called elected officials.
We can't detect the frequency. We don't know. Admits the New Jersey State Police. We don't know what these things are. New Jersey Representative Jeff Van Drew now is doubling down on the same claim that he made yesterday, which we brought to you yesterday here on the show, that these mysterious drones are coming from an Iranian mothership off the east coast of the United States. And he slammed Pentagon officials for it at the time, for treating the American people like they're stupid and withholding information about these drones. This is what he said this morning. Watch.
These drones very well could be launched from a ship. It could be hundreds of miles out at sea. These types of drones go much greater distances. These, again, are something that we normally don't see in the United States. So there is a real possibility. Could it be China? Absolutely. Could it be somebody else? It sure could. Here's the deal. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it's about. They haven't taken one down to analyze it. They have no idea where it comes from, but they know that it's not that. I mean, that's nonsense. They do not know what they're doing. Why don't they take one of them down, analyze it, and let us know what's really happening? I hope they know more than they're telling us, but that's this.
Like the orb that I recorded last night, I'll play the video. I believe it's stuff in the sky that they can't identify. They don't know what the hell going on. And now I think they're causing diversions to confuse everybody on the mass scale. But I'm getting people from overseas that say it's things popping up in the sky overseas too. But American military bases is also everywhere too. So I don't know if this Project Bluebeam being rolled out. But I know that orb that was in the sky last night, that doesn't have anything to do with Project Bluebeam. I think that was one of the natural things that's going on. They're trying to confuse us on.
It's respectful to the public and to Congress. It's about time they leveled with the truth. Hopefully they'll give us some information this afternoon. But even if they do, it's like a month too late. This reminds me of the spy balloon. Last year, it traveled the whole country.
Yeah,
wait. Yesterday he said, if it was our own government, they'd have told us.
Yeah.
He literally said that yesterday.
He's all over the place with this, but he is doubling down on the fact that these are coming from an Iranian mothership. So he's doubling down on that, but now he wants answers from the government, and he hopes that they'll tell us the truth about it today, I guess. Like we'll suddenly get answers on this. But he's right about one thing on this, which is that it's been about a month now. I mean, November 18th is when these things were first spotted. And they're showing up in massive numbers, staying up in the air for 6-7 hours at a time, even longer in some reports. And where are they going back to? We don't know. We don't have any idea. Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling BS on all of this. She says this idea that the Pentagon or the Defense Department doesn't know where these are coming from is total garbage. She says they absolutely know. She's calling BS. Watch.
Well, number one, I'm going to call it total bullshit that no one knows what these are. And I think it's a slap in the face to the American people to say they don't know what this is. They can track down a guy that just killed a CEO, but they can't identify what nightly drones are and where they're coming from. I think that is absolutely disgusting to lie to the American people like this, and the truth needs to be told about it. Secondly, if they're telling the truth, then this country is in horrible shape. We're all
those puppets. Elected officials don't run shit. And all of these congressional people, senators, they mad now because they finding out. They thought they was gonna go into a meeting and they was gonna come out. They like, what the hell? Why are y'all wasting our time? And they find out, who the hell are we supposed to be talking to? We run the government. And they no, you don't run the goddamn government. It is a deep state that run this motherfucking country. And they saying you're not on it's a need to know basis, and you don't need to know.
All in danger. I mean, seriously, if our great government can't identify what these drones are, they're flying every single night, that people are sitting out there videoing with their cell phones.
And that's the perception, call everything a motherfucking drone. That's the story. But what I recorded, it wasn't no drone. That's an orb. And what a lot of other people record ain't no drone. There is some type of thing that look like a drone in the sky. We don't know.
No American is safe. And I mean, I have no respect if our government cannot say what these are.
So if we don't know who they are.
Yes,
right?
hallelujah to her. So the Belleville mayor of New Jersey also just spoke out this afternoon saying that they were just briefed. 500 different mayors were briefed on this, and all sorts of unanswered questions that he says here in this interview. Watch.
New Jersey has some of the best detection equipment in the nation, I am told. We have by far the most robust equipment, is what the state police told us. The detection equipment is up, but not detecting. These are 6-foot drones that are somehow evading our detection. They are not being detected. Here's some unknowns.
Oh, sorry. You can keep playing it. Sorry.
And again, they were very transparent today. So some of the unknowns. The state police says unknowns. We have no idea where they're taking off from. No idea. We have no idea where they're landing. No idea at all. We have no idea who is behind them, because as I mentioned, they are not state, and we are told it is not federal. We have no idea the drone types, as I mentioned before. They stay up about 6 to 7 hours, and if you're a drone operator, you probably know that that's a very, very long time. We know.
So that's all. We don't know where they're from. We don't know where they're landing. We don't know any of that, right? As Brad Cage writes, a good rule of thumb is if the deep state can't find out who did it, then the deep state are the ones who did it. I love that, Brad. Friend of the show, Ashton Forbes, who's going to be on the show soon here again. We've had an interview with Ashton before, but he's going to be back soon here during the holiday season. But he said, it's too bad we don't have some kind of global persistent infrared surveillance system constantly scanning the entire planet. Otherwise, we'd be able to figure out what these drones are and where they're coming from. Oh, wait, we do. SBIR is the space-based infrared system that we have at our disposal. That's exactly what we have already in place to completely scan the United States and the world, for instance, constantly scanning the entire planet. We know exactly where they're coming from. I mean, we can pinpoint and tell you what the movement of trucks in Russia, for crying out loud. We know what underground bunkers are hiding in Iran, for crying out loud. We know exactly where these things are coming from, but we're just not being honest, of course. And then overnight, we got new images, by the way. Look at this helicopter coming in contact with one of these things in the sky. Look at the size of this thing. So in the back, look in the bottom picture here. You can see the helicopter in the background, and there's like massive craft, unlike anything I've ever seen before. Okay, is this some sort of a man-made craft? Looks like it probably is. The Black Book Project craft that we don't know anything about. That's probably exactly what it is. And then in Florida, now not just New Jersey, Florida, in Plantation, Florida, this woman was live streaming last night on Facebook, and she was showing live these orbs in the sky, and then she shows them, they transform into airplanes and then take off. And she's like, for 5 hours and for 5 days in a row, I've been capturing these things. So watch this as these things transform from an orb and then suddenly just shoot off as airplanes. Watch.
Okay, guys, this is real time live streaming. Drones, UAP, UFO, call them whatever you want. This is not normal. And by the way, the FAA clears. There's no airplanes flying right now in the greater Plantation area. Look how it takes flight. That one takes flight in the shape of an airplane. That one takes flight and eventually, well, it's still looking like an orb. Okay, so let's see how big this one gets. I believe this has some kind of technology that it projects some kind of holographic image of an airplane. I know I sound crazy, but I've seen these now for 5 days.
See, I believe those
5 days.
Real ones. And to make you fusionist with those.
There you go.
Did anybody else think that the emoji hearts were the drones at first?
Yeah.
People pushing them.
People
And I was like,
did,
oh,
yeah.
and they're heart shaped.
People kept pounding the hearts on that.
Okay, I'm not the only gullible one.
It's called Figure King Y. I came outside to see if I was gonna be able to spot a drone in for this what I spotted last night. Now some other videos that they're gonna be talking about this orb. I actually recorded it. My sky. That's it right there, y'all. What the hell is that? That they talking about. I'm in Texas. I'm in Galveston, Texas right now, y'all. That's definitely Galveston, Texas. And the drones have been spotted all over New Jersey, all over different places. And that's not a drone. That is an orb. This is Cult Figure TV News reporting live, y'all. I came outside and said, I'm going to check my skies tonight and see what I can see. Okay? That's the moon. That is allegedly the moon. So I decided to look at my skies. That is the so-called drone. That's an orb. This is Galveston, Texas, y'all. Wow. What the hell am I capturing? I want y'all to go outside and see if y'all can capture something in y'all skies. What the hell is that up there? See, these the real things. They trying to confuse. Oh, sorry, y'all. Sorry about that, y'all. That's what the lady was doing. This is Cult Figure TV News reporting live on the ground. This is in our skies, y'all. Look up. Go outside and look up. What the hell is that? That's not a drone. It's an orb, plasma ball in the skies. They trying to fool us. That's the real deal. Plasma ball in the skies, y'all. It's Cult Figure and I TV video that say it might be a cloaking device. That something is up there and it's using a cloaking device that we just see an orb, but that's really, some type of news revenue. Important. Cult Figure. Follow me. But I was able to capture. I cannot believe what we getting here. Watch it, all right. And it's another video where a dude is analyzing some of them. Hold on, I'm finna go. Hold on, matter of fact, I'm gonna go to it right now. Hold on. Wait, give me 1 minute. Oh, here we go. When I seen this dude, I said, oh yeah, we got him. We on it now. Now this is what we captured, y'all.
Is crazy news, breaking news, and it might.
Now check this out.
It might give the answer to all of the questions as where do they go? Why can't we see them in the day? Look at this. This is what he's seeing.
Anytime.
That's what we captured, bro.
I try to zoom in with my camera.
Now, that's what I was capturing with my phone.
All the way up to the drone.
Right, that plasma ball.
This is what I get. It has a round, shield around it.
See? That's what's on my video.
Fucking nuts. Look, right? That's zoomed in. 100, 208. And I'll show you the drone right now. Up in the sky.
These damn aliens, they spying on me. I caught their ass.
So what's confusing is why can a phone zoom in on these things, but his DSLR cannot? What's the difference there? Right? The DSLR has got mirrors in it. Is it because of that? Is it just a bit of a glitch? It'd be interesting to see other people taking photos or video footage using their DSLR and see what's going on.
Man, we got the footage at Cult Figure TV.
But does that explain alien tech? Does that explain why we can't see these things in the daytime? Is this just an anomaly?
Why nobody?
It would show, even if it was blurred out, it would show something, right? It would show something. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you was over on X. Somebody tagged me in on this. Jackie Ferreira. She tagged me in on this, and this it's basically happening in Northfield, Minnesota, as well, about 1,000 miles away from New Jersey.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But again, these individuals are saying that when they see them with the naked eye, or they try to chase it, it disappears, it moves. Look at this.
People in Northfield keep seeing mysterious lights in the nighttime sky. The sightings come as people on the East Coast report seeing large drones that they can't explain.
The East Coast sightings now have the FBI's attention, with the White House even chiming in. Fox 9's Mike Manzoni spoke with eyewitnesses in Northfield tonight. And Mike, they're not sure what they're looking at.
Yeah, but they say what they're seeing is similar, maybe not the same, but similar to what people are seeing in New York, in New Jersey. Here's one video here where you can kind of see one or two orbs kind of hovering, floating around. At times they move, eventually disappear. What are they? No one knows.
We started trying to follow them, but they won't be followed. They're kind of like they disappear.
Deborah Wagner doesn't know what she keeps seeing over her Northfield home.
And then these things, whenever anybody would kind of come towards them, they'd back off.
But her daughter, Chrissy Grady, sees them too.
Are these UFOs? Are they a government thing? Like, what are they?
It's really low. I know it is. We gotta follow it.
Government want to pretend like they got everything under control. Maybe they don't have everything under control. We did, but people just want to believe they do.
There's another one up there.
Oh, crap.
Chrissy and her kids took this video when they saw flashing lights that moved away after they spotted them.
Well, it obviously sees me. I gotta pretend like I'm actually driving. Watched both of them. So now there's 4.
They started seeing the lights over the summer.
I've got to pretend that I'm not seeing them. So they know, right? And it made me think of a video that I saw or someone talk. I think it was about Congress. I think it was Louis. He mentioned that there is a possibility they are biological and they can use telepathy to predict when fighter pilots are about to attack or go towards them, and they move before the pilot has actually thought about doing it, right? Maybe these things are picking up that they're being seen and they're moving. I don't know. I know it's a bit far-fetched, but we've got to ask those questions, okay? A few years ago, we were laughed at the idea of UAPs. Now it's just common knowledge.
And now it's a nightly thing.
They would come and kind of like hover, and then we would go outside, and then they would leave.
About 1,000 miles away in New York and New Jersey, this is what people are seeing in the skies. Eyewitnesses say they look like SUV-sized drones, and those sightings now have even the White House's attention.
Obviously, this is something that DHS and FBI are tracking very, very closely.
Well, I don't want it to come closer.
As for what Chrissy and her mother, Deborah, keep seeing here in Minnesota, well, they don't know.
Right now, just the unknown is driving us crazy and making us mad.
But they do know what you're probably thinking.
I was like, oh man, everybody's gonna think, oh, go have another glass of wine, Mom.
And Chrissy says she did reach out to the sheriff's office, but they didn't have any answers for her.
No one's got any answers, mate. There's nothing new. Another close-up of a drone where it's got lights out, apparently. Look at this. This is the most peculiar thing that you've ever seen. Unidentified drone spotted flying in low altitude somewhere over New Jersey.
That's not a plane. Yeah, it's wild.
This is getting crazy, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
That's not. That's not my camera.
Okay, I'm a little bit.
Even if it was Project Bluebeam and the government was finna run a play on us, that's bad news. They finna run a play on us. But if it's not the government running the play on us, that's bad news.
I'm a little bit skeptical of this one.
So it seems like it's all.
Reason being is because he's used the audio of the video that I showed you yesterday with the blue flashing light with the massive like lens flare. He's used that audio. And when people use different audios over their own video, it raises red flags for me.
I had to go run in and get my camera. Nobody was going to believe me. What's with my camera? Look at this thing. See?
I'm not too sure. I think that might be. I'm not too sure. I don't know about that one. Let me know what you think. But I'm a bit skeptical of that one. Anyway, finally, the absolute legend, George Knapp, has this to say about the drone situation, which basically summarizes what I've said on today's video, okay?
We build craft that look like their craft. They build craft that look like ours. It's underway right now. These drone things that are popping up.
That's what I'm saying. Why do all these have lights, blinking lights like drone? Like maybe they are making them to actually look like our own tech, like he says, right? Start again.
We build craft that look like their craft. They build craft that look like ours. It's underway right now. These drone things that are popping up over air bases, drones, a nice prosaic term that calms us down. Well, maybe somebody went to Amazon and bought one or Walmart or something. They're trying to shoot those things down. They haven't been able to using the kind of sophisticated anti-drone technology. It doesn't work.
AUKUS
on these things. I think those drones they're something else, and they're telling us something. We build.
So he's literally just said what I've been talking about. Okay, one, I've been annoyed with them being called drones. I've inadvertently kept on calling them drones purely because of the YouTube algorithm, and everyone's searching for drones. The talk is about drones. These are they're unidentified. We don't know where they are. Right? They are UAP. Okay? They can't be taken down. They can't be. People have tried to. They don't know where they're coming from. Speculation is that they're coming from the ocean, but we haven't tracked them. We haven't seen them really coming from the ocean. Right? We've seen lights and things coming from the ocean, but are they these drones coming from
Revolutionary salute to our queen, Yaya's Pierce, for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is a way of life. I absolutely appreciate the love, queen. Salute. I didn't know you was up this late. You was in there.
From New Jersey? I don't know. But anyway, I really felt like I had to do that video today. Tell me what you think about these drones going dark with that DSLR camera. Was he actually seeing something? And also that drone which had no lights on it. Why is Congress saying one thing and Pentagon saying another? Anyway, keep up to date, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate
No, we just started because we got to look deeper into this. Okay. Now, let's listen to her, because now this is a U.S. senator. She finna really check this lady on TV about don't play games. It really threw me off, and I was like, damn, she really on that telling the truth. And when you're gonna see, they don't know what the hell going on. Now, it's people within the government who do, but it proves Donald Trump's point. It's a deep state. None of the elected officials know anything.
As well are getting briefed today about those mysterious SUV-sized drones spotted in the skies over New Jersey.
People now like, hold on, it's past y'all just telling us everything is okay, it's nothing to worry about. People tired of hearing that. We the American people, this is our country. We put y'all in power. Y'all don't, we not kids. Everybody pissed. You don't tell us it's gonna be okay, and you're saying you don't know what's going on.
More drones were reportedly spotted over warships off the West Coast, over nuclear sites across the West, even over the CIA in Langley, Virginia. An official with the White House National Security Council saying there's no evidence the drones are a national security threat or are linked to a foreign government.
That's a lot.
Joining us now is Democratic New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who serves on the Intelligence Committee. I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls from constituents as well in New York, but this is an issue for the Intelligence Committee. You've asked the FBI and the Homeland Security Department to brief Congress. What do we know so far? What do you know about the drones that you can share?
Well, Andrea, we know very little about these drones, which is the problem. We don't know who is sending them, who's controlling them, whether they are spying, whether they are sighting targets for future action. We have no idea the purpose of these drones, who's controlling them, and whether they are putting the American people at risk.
Yeah.
The Pentagon has denied the claim made by...
She's pissed that she don't know what's going on. Now you get to see like these elected officials. Now they're finding out they're in the same boat as us when it comes to these things. And there's no private meeting. Nobody has went into no private meeting and got no reassurances. Nobody have. You can look at everybody's face when they're talking about it. Anybody talking about it, they're like, they really can't believe it. And there's a lot of people from New Jersey. Their elected officials are absolutely pissed. They can't believe they can't go in a room, get some assurances, then come out here and let us know, hey, it's okay. None of them are saying it's okay.
By a Republican New Jersey congressman that, quote, an Iranian mothership is behind these drones. That does seem a little far-fetched. Does ease your concerns that they say that there's nothing to that?
Well, I wouldn't say that either, Andrea.
Now, yesterday, the Republican went on TV and said these drones were coming from an Iranian mothership that was out to sea. Now I was like, Iranian mothership? Hell no, quit trying to blame Iran. That's nonsense. Now, the reporters wanted her to assure the people this has nothing to do with no Iran. She was trying to give, just let the people know it's under. And this lady, it messed me up. This lady was like, well, I can't say that. And she tells you, she said, I can't go against what he said. And she don't want to stand with the Republican loony. But she cannot, with good faith, tell the people everything is okay when it's not.
We've had drone incursions over Langley for 2 weeks in a row and did not see them coming, did not know where they were from and who was operating them. They're using technology in some of these instances that are unfamiliar. The size of these drones are unusual. It's a size that is not commercially available, or at least readily commercially available. So there's a lot of questions about these UAS. It's important that we look at the laws because right now some of them are flying over airspace above homes, above schools, above communities. And there's no direct law that denies them to do that. So we need to look at our laws. We need to reform them. We should be able to know their purview, who's controlling them at all times. If it's a foreign adversary flying over places throughout the United States is illegal. It is something that we can do something about. I'm working with Senator Cotton right now on legislation that when these drone incursions take place over military bases or nuclear sites or sensitive areas, that the DoD will have the authority to take them down. My letter to the FAA and to Homeland Security and to the FBI is asking, what are you doing? Are you going to follow the drones to find out where they're coming from? If there are ships off the coast that are launching these drones, we need to know who is controlling those ships, whether they're foreign adversaries. We know, Andrea, that Iran, that China, that Russia have extremely sophisticated drone capabilities. We've seen drones used as a weapon of war in Ukraine. And so these are the reasons why I have high concerns and I'm quite dissatisfied by the response by Homeland Security, FBI, and FAA to my request that we need to have answers. They need to know where these drones are coming from. And we cannot simply say, well, they're not causing any harm. Well, do we know that? What are they doing? And who's sending them?
Well, now you have given me a lot of information here.
Don't know. She's
so I should roll back my skepticism about that.
Yeah.
But do you really think that there could be an Iranian mothership?
Come on, man. I sat there and watched that conversation between them. That was a real conversation. Look how the reporter had to say, okay. I'm sorry that I did. See, because the lady trying to tell her, Andrew, don't come on here, pretend like you know what's going on, and I'm telling you we don't know what's going on. So the lady had to take it back, and she gonna be like, okay, but Iranian mothership?
that close off the coast of the U.S., the Atlantic coast, let's say, to launch something
There's
that
reason
would go
to
over
believe.
Langley.
Yeah, there's reason to believe that drone incursions that have happened over many months, over the last few years, at different places in the United States, could have been launched from ships. Particularly if you look at the drone incursions we've seen in Virginia, the drone incursions at Langley, the drone incursions around places that are easily accessible by sea. They need to be launched from somewhere. And so if it's a foreign adversary, a ship might be a very convenient place to launch a drone from. That's why you have to look at these questions. We don't have any evidence.
Some of it is CIA. The orbs and some of the phenomenal stuff we're seeing, that's not them, man. The CIA causing the confusion. See some real shit in that goddamn sky, and they giving people stuff to look at.
Evidence of a specific Iranian ship. The DoD has said they don't have any evidence of a specific Iranian ship, but we don't have any evidence that they didn't come from a ship. And then we don't know who's building them and who's flying them, and we don't know their purpose. So as someone who sits on the Intelligence Committee and Armed Services Committee, that causes me grave concern, because as we know with the Chinese spy balloon.
Come on, man. I told you this lady's pissed off. She on the Intelligence Committee and she don't know shit. She has her whole life. She thought she was powerful, man. And she don't know nothing. She feels small like us, and she mad. And like the rest of the elected officials, they can't believe that they ain't got no reassurances. And the deep state let them know you're not getting none. You just like the rest. That's really crazy. They letting them know you just like the rest of the Americans. You're going to get whatever we give them.
Our adversaries have been using our airspace, the lack of regulation in these airspaces, to gather intelligence against us. And because we know that is true, we have to therefore look at any of these drone incursions and ask the simple questions: whose are they and why are they there?
Are you assuming that they are unmanned, or do you think it's possible that they could even be manned drones?
These are, I believe, are unmanned. It seems to be unmanned, although the size is unusual. And the size
That's why I'm asking.
the size reported of the drones over Langley were also quite large, but they are being identified as drones, as unmanned aerial systems. So we still believe they're unmanned. But as you know, because you cover war, the drones used in Ukraine have been able to deliver lethal munitions. They're used as a weapon. They're used in many contexts, and they certainly can be used as spycraft, where they gather intelligence, getting signals intelligence, getting reception from cell phone, other digital communications. We know this is feasible, and with the size of the drone, they could carry any payload they wanted to carry, any kind of weapon they would need to carry. So these are questions we should be asking. We should not be looking at these in the way we would look at a kite or a balloon. These are drones, unmanned aerial systems that have been used as weapons of war around the globe. We have adversaries who have high levels of sophistication in manufacturing of drones. We should be asking very serious questions.
She don't feel so powerful right now, y'all. She just like us in the dark, because she wanted to play like it wasn't a goddamn deep state, and actually finding out it is. Now I'm gonna listen to this mayor. He pissed off too, because they finding out. They just like the regular civilians right now. It's people in power, unelected people in power, people who were not placed in power. The deep state.
Well, you are definitely not insulting. So, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's dozens of alleged drones spotted across New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and it's stoking a lot of fear among the officials and the residents there. The unexplained phenomena had a lot of people just kind of scratching their heads at first, but now the rise in sightings is starting to spike concerns.
And I get it, right? ABC News cannot confirm what these videos show, but dozens of New Jersey residents have recorded unidentified aircrafts flying through the sky since mid-November, including Mayor Sam Morris of Mine Hill, New Jersey. He's one of several people to capture all of this on video, and he's also part of the coalition of 19 Morris County mayors and elected officials who are now demanding answers and action from federal officials.
Mayor Sam Morris of Mine Hill, New Jersey, joins us now. All right, Mayor, just a short bit ago, John Kirby did give an update on these sightings during the White House press briefing. Let's listen together and get your thoughts.
We have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or a public safety threat or have a foreign nexus. We have not been able to, and neither have state or local law enforcement authorities, corroborate any of the reported visual sightings. To the contrary, upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft that are being operated lawfully.
That's a lie.
Manned off.
This dude, see, that's how, man, they would lie right to your face. That man just said, what y'all are seeing is planes. That people are in those flight. Man, this is crazy that he sat there and told that lie. And that's the type of BS people are tired of. Why would you lie to the American people when we could? There's not no goddamn planes, manned aircraft. But he said it.
Manned aircraft being operated lawfully. All right, Mayor, do you believe him?
So what that means, he's saying that we're all seeing small planes, right? That's my take on that.
Yes.
I have to tell you, that's incredulous. I'm incredulous about that. That is ridiculous. I would invite Mr. Kirby to Mine Hill. Come on out, Mr. Kirby, and let's go on out one night about 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'll go out behind my town hall, and you can count them with me all night. I have a report that over here in Randolph, New Jersey, off Canfield Avenue, that over
this dude, the mayor of the city, he like, oh, hell no, y'all lying. And I'm sick of y'all lying. You a liar. We are recording these things. These are not planes, manned aircraft. Why are you lying to the people? They see, this dude thought that he was high enough in power that definitely he would be able to, know the truth and better tell his people, hey, we got this under control. But they see they don't. They just steady lying to the American people.
the Valley, which is the town of Roxbury, I have a credible reference over there, a resident over there who told me there's anywhere from 30 to 40 a night, and every night they're in the same place doing the same things. So I have to say, Mr. Kirby, that's a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of skeptical, just given the videos, and you're taking them. You're there. So tell me, first, a couple things. First, do they move like planes, or drones move differently than planes? We got a feel for that. And second, Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal says the government should shoot one down. What do you think of that?
I'm starting to lean that way myself. I can tell you, and neither of you are old enough to remember the game Pong, but when we were kids, Pong came out, and it's the ball goes back and forth and back and forth. This is the same thing. You look up in the
thing with the Ukrainian war. They supposed to have electronic jamming war. See, when they say shoot them down, you thinking gun them down. You're not supposed to have to do that with a drone. And with the Ukraine war, you're supposed to be able to use electronic war. Russia, if it was Russia, they'd be able to take that drone right out the sky. They got the equipment. U.S. supposed to have it. They can electronically control it. Iranians can do it. Electronically control that drone and land it safely where they want to land it. That is a fact. They supposed to be able to do that. Now, either they saying they can't do it, or the drones, or it's jamming. I think I got a video coming up later where it's saying these drones are jamming them when they trying to do that. But they need to explain to the people, when they say shooting it down, they don't mean guns and blasting and all that. No, they're supposed to be able to electronically hack the system and land it safely on the ground.
in the sky, and you see them, and some of them are just hovering and sitting. Sorry, that's not a manned small airplane. It's not a Cessna. And they go, in that video that you have of mine, over the east part of Mine Hill in the town of Dover, New Jersey, there's one drone sitting still, and it's pretty bright, and the others are going back north and south in an exact pattern. You can tell that they have GPS points programmed into them because they don't deviate. They go back and forth over the same thing. For him to say, when he says we don't have information that these are credible threats or various things, it's because we have no information. So if you have no information, you certainly can say whatever you want about what's being presented to you. That's really insulting to all the people here who are living through this.
Well, you are definitely not insulting us because Terry and I both played Pong growing up. Our parents couldn't afford a Pong. I had to go to the neighbor's house to play Pong. But I get the point that you're making because it's a very slow back and forth of one, ball to the paddle and to the other paddle. Anyway.
Very methodical. Methodical.
So let me, so you're still very skeptical. You're not believing it. So here's my question. What do you want done? What do you want to see? What would relieve your fears, your residents' fears, and just kind of, cause everybody to relax?
Well, one thing that I would say to of course, I represent this town, but I'm with all the other mayors in Morris County. And to be honest with you, there were 250 mayors at the assemblage yesterday at the state police headquarters. I would say to the people of Mine Hill and the state of New Jersey, Morris County, that if these people wanted to do something, whoever's controlling these, if they wanted to do something to us, they would have done it. These things are what we call extremely obvious. They come out at night. Now people are reporting they run until daylight, but they generally were going wherever they were going by 11 or 12 o'clock at night, midnight. And they want to be seen. They're not hiding. They're almost taunting us or flaunting the fact that they're bright and they're out there and they don't care that they're seen. So if they were up to something bad in terms of harm, they would have done it. They wouldn't have turned all their lights on. They would have just come over and done something. There are farming drones that can spray farm chemicals, and people are afraid that that's what's going on here. People go on the internet and find those things. But if they wanted to do that, so I think people can relax about some kind of imminent threat, at least in my opinion. But the fact that you have something 100, 200, 300 pounds over your head, and it could possibly fall out of the sky, depending on a malfunction, that itself is enough of a threat. What I would like to see happen today is I'd like to see Michael Whitaker, the administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration, come out with a statement. We don't need the White House to do this. If he's in that role, he understands aeronautics and airplanes and space and everything else better than the White House. I'd love to see him come out with a statement and say, hey, we're looking
states' rights. The governor supposed to be able to do as he please. You see what I'm saying, man? Who run this fucking country? Is that the United Nations? See, it might be something more nefarious. That might be NATO doing some training here within the U.S. borders, and they don't want to say it. You know what I'm saying? That might be the UN doing some bullshit. You see, they done lost their sovereignty. Don't want to tell the American people the damn truth.
We're looking into this and taking it seriously, because what I just saw Mr. Kirby say is he thinks we're all, confused. I'll just be polite.
Well, there's nothing confusing by the fact that you're seeing something on a regular basis and it's got you concerned, which is why we're talking about it, of course. But that's actually a really good point. We'd love to hear from the FAA, Northern Command, find out exactly what it is that's going on. All right. We hope that you
it is concerning when you've got these literal UFOs flying every single night. And Marky, they're huge. These are not like your
look at this video.
6 feet across in some cases.
This is crazy.
The mood is more concerned now than before. But what I've said is that if this is something nefarious, then we should be even more concerned that the FBI, Homeland Security don't know what it is. My guess is the logical explanation, it's our military and we're on a need to know basis. And right now they've decided we don't need to know.
Yeah, y'all need something a little bit more to work with here. I understand you have a hard out in 1 minute, so 60 seconds left. I know the governor says, there's nothing for the public to be concerned about right now. How can he say that when you don't have a lot of information? Right. And also, do you think they know more than they're letting on, Bill?
100%. I'm not so sure our governor knows more, because I don't know if the federal government trusts him with information that they don't want to get out there. But that said, absolutely, the FBI, Homeland Security, the military, they must know more, because these things are flying on and around military bases. There would be no way to get into those restricted zones without being shot down by the government or stopped at some level. So they definitely know more. I think they owe it to the American people to let us know what is going on. If it's a secret that will compromise national security, then tell us that. You can't give us details, but be rest assured this is an exercise that is on our behalf.
Okay, just when you thought the drone story couldn't get any weirder, guess what? It gets weirder. Now, we've had reports already out there that some people have hopped in their car and they've tried to follow these drones. Well, at least one person has reported that once they got kind of close under one of these drones, don't get me wrong, the drone's flying in the sky and obviously the car is on the ground. But once they got under one of these drones as they were following it, they claimed that their car started having electrical problems. The clock started going backwards, all of this weird stuff. Well, now people are reporting that they're trying to fly their own drones in the sky with hopes of getting photo or videos of these other mysterious drones. And whenever they get close, or even whenever they just try to fly in general, their drones are being kind of like shut down. There's something jamming them. The batteries will automatically go dead. I've seen, at least a half a dozen reports like this online. I wasn't sure how serious to take it, but now it's been officially reported. So we do know that this is an officially documented problem, that people in this area aren't able to fly their own drones. Like the drones that they buy from Best Buy and Walmart, they're having trouble with these drones. So whatever those mysterious things are in the sky, they seem to be making it hard for other people to use their own drones to try to, follow them or get photos of them. I mean, the story's just getting wilder and wilder, but I already prepared you all for this because I told you all that it's, probably very likely that there's technology within these mysterious drones to maybe jam tracking systems. Maybe that's why they're so hard to follow. But also, we don't know if they could be flying over people's homes or these military bases, collecting certain information, hacking, you name it. There's all types of advanced computer technology that are within, a lot of different drones that we know of. So I can only assume that these mysterious drones probably have some pretty advanced tech within them as well. So very concerning situation. But yeah, regular everyday people are now having problems launching their drones. But as far as I know, local police and sheriff's departments, they're going out on drone. I haven't seen them report any problems yet. So that's weird to me. So law enforcement drones are flying okay, but regular people's drones aren't. I don't know. Another thing that just makes you wonder. But let's go ahead and roll this news clip and then I'll be right back with more.
Well, it's been the talk in New Jersey lately, mysterious drones flying above multiple counties, and no one really seems to know exactly what's going on.
So this has caught the attention of many. Fox 5's Richard Jacobs takes a look at the latest sightings in the sky.
These are all drones in the sky.
It may look like videos from the TV series The Unexplained, what appears to be mystery drones flying over some New Jersey communities.
I can see 3 drones.
From down at the shore all the way to the Army facility in Morris County.
They just hover. A little bit over there, a little bit over there, a little bit, but they just hover back and forth.
Wharton, New Jersey resident and Terror Talk podcast host Michael B. has spent the past 2 weeks attempting to see what these peculiar-looking light-up moving dots are in the sky with a drone of his own. But so far, he hasn't had any luck.
The other night, there was, right here over Picatinny, there was a drone just hanging out. I put my drone up in the air and went towards it. I had full battery life. Not 3 minutes into the flight, I lost control of the drone. Warning on my screen, lost control, and my drone started going down, dead battery.
Michael lives less than a quarter mile from the Picatinny Arsenal Army base, and it has been there over the past few weeks where the military says they have spotted at least 11 unauthorized drones. Governor Phil Murphy says he now needs federal help in finding out where these are coming from.
It's really frustrating that we don't have more answers as to where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing.
Down near Monmouth County, the Monmouth County Sheriff also urging federal and state officials to take prompt action addressing these sightings. Jeff Frost from Matawan says he finds himself looking out of his window every night with a bit of fear.
It's so weird. It's such an eerie feeling. I can't really describe it. Like as each passing day goes by and there's less, more conversation about it, but less explicit, like what this is, it becomes a little creepier.
Could be aliens.
Officials aren't going that far, but are asking the public to be aware and keep reporting what they see until someone figures out what's flying in the skies over New Jersey.
So here's what I'm wondering, or here's what's on my mind. I know that our military has the capability, to jam these drones or scramble them, whatever you want to call it, and bring them down. I know that we have the capability of doing that. So what I'm wondering is, you know, when everyday average people in New Jersey and these areas are trying to fly their drones, are these drones being stopped by from flying by the other mysterious drones that are coming from God knows where? Or have we already implemented the technology or the, I don't know if you would call it weaponry or defensive equipment already? Have we already deployed defensive equipment in New Jersey using the technology to jam and take down drones, but it's not working on the mysterious drones that are coming from God knows where, but it is working on everyday average people's drones? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Are these drones being stopped from flying by some tech that's within these other drones that are flying in the sky? Or has the US military or our government implemented some tech trying to take down the other drones, but it's not working, but it is working on our everyday, you know, average drones? I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of a completely confusing situation. And just when I think that I have a grasp on what could be going on here, I'm thrown for another loop. Like right now, we have the Iranian mothership loop. And I'm thinking, okay, well, here's different possibilities of why they would use this as an excuse for war with Iran. But then we got the Pentagon denying any involvement. So it's just like, are denying that Iran is really involved? I don't know anymore. It's a very fascinating story with a lot of different twists. But we're all on board this roller coaster, and we're going to keep it rolling until we find out what's going on. But for now, let me know your thoughts down below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification.
So I came across this on one of the Facebook groups that's tracking on the drones. And there's a professional photographer here named Nancy O'Connell. Well, I guess there's been a lot of orbs flying around too, in addition to the drones and stuff in New Jersey.
They saying this is a picture.
So she took a picture of one with her professional equipment. And the interesting thing is that if you look at the amount of time the shutter was open, or the amount like the amount of time the picture was taken for, or the exposure, whatever, it's 1/30th of a second. So you usually use that for something that's like really high speed, or you want to capture something that's just going really fast. So to have this come out from one of those orbs in the time span of 1/30th of a second is really creepy. I guess that's what it looked like from far away.
Yep. And that's what we captured.
Another one.
People could talk about doctor video and all that shit. I didn't doctor my video that I seen for myself with my own goddamn phone that I posted.
And then, yeah. I do not know what to say about this. The person didn't, from what I've heard, the photographers don't upload the raw files sometimes because they want to, like, they take pictures of what they took a picture of just to make, like, let everyone know that, like, yeah, I actually took this. I didn't alter it or anything. But yeah, this is one of the creepiest things I've seen. Again.
So I have found that little bit of evidence of what they say in the orb might look like up close. Now this just isn't, remember, it's just not on. East Coast. It's now on the West Coast also.
On the West Coast, Temecula to be specific, leaving residents buzzing.
Christy Fajardo joining us live with the update there. Christy.
Yeah, Christine and Susan, is very much a mystery. The Biden administration has said that multiple agencies, including the FBI, are investigating the sightings, but says it's possible that much of what people are seeing are actually manned aircraft. But people who live here in Temecula say they're used to seeing helicopters and planes from nearby Camp Pendleton, and they say what they saw was quiet, and one had the video to prove it.
I think the public has a right to know what is flying above the skies and what the purpose is.
This is what Brian Dirk saw over his Temecula backyard yesterday evening, but he's not the only one who saw it. There are multiple social media videos just like his from South Riverside County, and listen closely. Witnesses say whatever it was didn't make a sound.
We saw two that came directly overhead our backyard in South Temecula here, and then we've seen a bunch across the horizon.
I looked up because it was coming now right over top of me, and it was quiet. It didn't make any noise.
Melinda Peters saw them last night too in Temecula, which is a mountain range away from Camp Pendleton. The Marine Base sent a written statement that reads in part, "We are aware of the drones that are flying over Temecula. They are not associated and do not impact Camp Pendleton's training and operations." But the base command did not elaborate on who might be flying them.
I don't think that it's regular off-the-shelf drones that are being flown around, at least here. Based on what we saw, it was a pretty good size, almost the size of like maybe a smaller vehicle, a car.
It's similar to videos taken in the skies above New Jersey last month.
Yeah, that's no plane.
Prompting security concerns and this response from the Biden administration.
These are not U.S. military drones. What our initial assessment here is that these are not drones or activities coming from a foreign entity or adversary.
But in Temecula, people
keep saying it's not U.S. military drone. It's not foreign adversaries. Just telling you, man, it could be the CIA on some bullshit.
we spoke with say they are certain they saw drones and just want to know if a business or a government agency or who else might be behind them.
You would think that they'd let people know so that, because like I said, it's become this big thing.
So you heard Camp Pendleton says those drones were not theirs. We also reached out to the Forest Service because the Cleveland National Forest is nearby. They say it wasn't them either. SoCal Edison does confirm they did fly drones yesterday, but they say that was near Menifee and Murrieta and not after dark, so you can rule them out as well. The one agency, though, we have not heard back from is the FAA. We'll keep you posted. Live in Temecula, I'm Chrissy Fajardo. Let's send it back to you.
These drones, that black blob in the night sky is a drone, a good sized one, though it's hard to tell without other objects close in the frame to compare it to. It's one of dozens that have been spotted recently in the skies over New Jersey and New York, in the New York area, including a military research facility at the around the Trump property in Bedminster as well. Today, the White House sought to downplay rumors.
We have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or a public safety threat, or have a foreign nexus.
Security officials held a private briefing today for members of Congress, some of whom are demanding more in the way of answers.
I've been a little frustrated. There hasn't been enough transparency, letting people know what's happening. It's allowing a lot of potentially misinformation to spread, or at least fear. We should know what's going on over our skies, and I've asked for a lot more information.
They should be shot down if necessary, because they're flying over sensitive areas, whether it's planes that may be jeopardized or security at military bases. We ought to do a much better job. The Biden administration ought to be acting more aggressively against these drones.
Well, Senator Booker, who you heard there a moment ago, along with his New Jersey and New York Senate colleagues, sent a letter today to the heads of DHS, FBI, and FAA requesting a briefing on the matter. More on this all now from CNN's Omar Jimenez.
So people have been seeing drones. Don't worry, this is one of ours. But we've been going around talking to people in this northern New Jersey area, and really almost everyone you talk to has either seen one or knows someone who's seen one.
What are they? Who's sending them up there? What are they doing there? Why doesn't anybody know what they are? You know, and why New Jersey? It didn't sound like an airplane, which is why I went out and looked at it.
It was loud, but not any louder than the airplanes, because the airplanes are loud.
Yeah, the jets were loud.
And there were jets flying over at the same time. They actually flew in a circle around our building, both of them, and then across, and then disappeared. It still could be somebody playing a trick, but which is unlikely because they are so big.
Yeah, it's not a 10-year-old flying it, you know.
Yeah. I'll just let the people that are trying to figure it out.
But to this point, no one has, at least publicly. The FBI is now investigating weeks of reported drone sightings over New Jersey. That's according to a document given to state and local officials. As a growing number of people report seeing drones, some described as 6 feet in diameter, flying in the skies. And there have been questions about when they first started popping up. Reports seem to vary, but the Picatinny Arsenal, which is a military installation in northern New Jersey, has confirmed sightings in the area going back to November 13th. And countrywide, this isn't the first time mysterious drones or something like it have been spotted around military installations.
So specifically, Langley Air Force Base did experience incursions of unauthorized unmanned aerial systems last year in December 2023. The number of those UAS incursions did fluctuate on any given day, but they didn't appear to exhibit any hostile intent.
And while with the New Jersey reported sightings, the White House says many have actually been manned aircraft, some witnesses disagree.
They'll just change direction, like go from like 90 to like 270 degrees, just like fly different directions, and planes obviously can't do that. Nothing during the day, just completely at night. It's odd.
And public officials are starting to get frustrated.
They're creating so much fear and uneasiness in the public.
There's no excuse for us not to know at this point. Now is not the time to mess around. It is a time for action. We're past the point of let's pretend it's not a big deal and try to keep everybody calm while we figure it out. It's really concerning. And quite frankly, it's not acceptable.
Now, the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are throwing a little bit of cold water on this. They said in a joint statement that based on what they've seen so far, they don't see any national security threat or anything like that, but also that they are investigating whether these reported drone sightings are actually drones or whether they're being mistakenly identified for manned aircraft. And they did say many of the cases that they've investigated have actually turned out to be manned aircraft. That said, they are continuing to investigate, and without a definitive answer to this point, especially over reported sightings that span back to midpoint of last month, it's left this vacuum where a lot of questions have come up and a lot of questions from people who are upset that there is not a definitive answer to this point, Anderson.
All right, Omar Jimenez, thanks very much. John Miller is back. Also joining us is CNN Senior National Security Analyst Julia Kayyem. She's a former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security, currently a professor at Harvard's Kennedy School. So I've been skeptical of this whole thing. How do we know this isn't just some people, flying around drones, and once people get upset about it, they just continue?
I think it's a couple of things. One, it's because of the size. I mean, people have described these things as being the size of a small automobile. So as Omar pointed out in his piece, that's not the drone we bought for our kids or a hobbyist necessarily. It looks expensive. The second thing is that when they've been encountered, and the idea is like, where are they coming from? And they're flying in groups. And if they're coming from offshore, the New Jersey State Police had helicopters literally laying offshore waiting for this because it was night after night after night. And when they chased them, they shut off their lights, the drones shut off their lights and increased speed and disappeared. So it sounds like, it feels like whoever it is definitely not looking to be encountered, detected, seen, or explained.
Juliet, I mean, does it surprise you we don't have a definitive answer yet on the origin of these things, considering all the money that's invested in national security and protecting U.S. airspace?
Yeah.
Yeah, and particularly airspace. I mean, an entire system of control from Northcom to NORAD to the FAA to regulations regarding drones and the ability to fly certain unmanned vehicles, depending on their size, their capacity, and everything else. This whole regulatory system exists. And the answer we've gotten back is, well, it's likely not drones. And so that's what the government is now saying, is that most of them are manned aircraft. But what John is saying is then that would suggest that all of these eyewitness accounts and all of these videos that are showing multiple drones of large size that are moving in ways that an airplane doesn't move, and that try to avoid detection, we're still not getting a great explanation around that. And look, some of these videos we have to, people are probably putting online now. Some of them may look like a drone, but it's actually an aircraft. But there's too many eyewitness accounts.
John, I mean,
it's just a manned aircraft.
Yeah, have we seen this before? I mean, were there other incidents in other places?
I mean, in Norfolk, Virginia, in late 2023, you had 17 days of this over military locations, naval locations by the shore.
And was that ever figured out?
No, not figured out. And I mean, to Juliet's point, there's 110 mayors, that were at this conference where they did the briefing, and their residents are angry about the government response saying, well, they were fixed wing aircrafts. It's like fixed wing aircrafts don't stop and hover and then go dark and take off. They're a little insulted about the idea that they're not being believed.
Do we even know how to, I mean, obviously drones have been a huge part of the war in Ukraine. Has anti-drone technology, I mean, do we know how to fight against drones?
So we do. And that's an issue here, which is under the current conundrum of laws between the FAA, Federal Aeronautic Administration, DHS, which is in charge of infrastructure security, the FBI, which has drone interdiction and detection capability and authority, and then all of local law enforcement. Only the FBI is authorized to use that. So when you hear people saying, well, they should shoot them down, first of all, the complication is it's not illegal to fly a drone at night in New Jersey. So what are you shooting them down for? And second of all, the police aren't allowed to do that because the federal government, even at events like New Year's Eve in Times Square and other things where you'd say, if something with a payload came in, you'd want to take it out. They don't have that authority.
John Miller, thank you, Juliet Keim, as well.
And is the U.S. government tying its own hands when it comes to stopping threats against the country? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this. Now, this is one of those stories where I get to gloat because I'm right about everything. And again, literally just a week ago, I made a whole video about how incredibly impotent the U.S. government is to actually address the emerging threat of drones. And this is a story about this. Now, the latest development for those of you guys that are not caught up, there have been around hundreds at this point of drone sightings over New Jersey and Pennsylvania at night. The federal government is powerless to find out who's flying these drones. They're larger than any drone commercially available, some as large as a car, and they are flying at night, lights blinking. They are not trying to be subtle. In fact, it's brazenly obvious that these drones are hovering around. Again, these are sensitive areas, including parts of New Jersey, New York, and the Philadelphia area, which you might know contain a number of shipyards. Shipyards, the Picatinny Arsenal, and one of Trump's properties. So this is a serious incident, right? One in which the U.S. government is kind of being exposed as utterly powerless to stop this, right? And in fact, this drone activity is increasing in the area and has been going on since at least November. And the story that has recently developed is actually really disturbing. According to one representative who was recently briefed, about 50 of these drones, one, came in from the ocean, implying that somehow there's some vessel or vehicle that's somehow deploying these drones. And at least a dozen trailed a Coast Guard ship, right? These drones followed a 47-foot Coast Guard cutter while law enforcement tracked another 50 coming onto land from the ocean near Island State Park. And the FBI is admitting that the agency has no idea who's behind the drones and how they're getting on into New Jersey. This is absolutely insane. I have a hard time even believing this. They say there's nothing that would lead me to say that we just don't know. And that's the concerning part, according to FBI Assistant Director Robert Wheeler during a congressional hearing. Hearing an agency that has hundreds of millions of dollars in their budget and claims to be committed to fighting terrorism wherever it might emerge in the globe, have no fucking clue what these drones are doing over U.S. sovereign territory is absolutely pathetic. I don't know what else to tell you. And the fact that they are able to harass military vehicles, military vessels, the fact that they're tracked coming in from the ocean only now. By the way, they're only tracking them weeks after the fact. So this is, I cannot explain how insane this is. What country can't defend its borders from a phenomenal number of drones? In fact, one representative, Jeff Van Drew, claimed that Iran is believed to be behind the mysterious drones, right? He says that Iran launched a, quote, mothership about a month off ago that contains drones off the coast. And he says, these are from high sources, and I don't say this lightly. He added that they should be shot down. Now, the Pentagon says that there's no evidence the drones are the work of an adversary, and said there's no truth that there's an Iranian ship off the coast of the U.S. He said there's no show called Mothership launching drones towards the United States, according to the Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary. The FBI, of course, has no idea what it is, but it's kind of annoying when the Pentagon is like, well, we know what it isn't. Well, if you know what it isn't, then show us what it is. And this is really, really, really bothersome, right? And again, a Congressman Tony Gonzalez at a hearing said, you're telling me you don't know what the hell these drones in New Jersey are, right? And he said, that's right, according to Robert Wheeler, director of the Critical Incident Response Group. And this is part of what I've been saying for a long time, right? And here's a killer. When asked how much the budget is for FBI counter drone technology, Wheeler revealed it's less than $500,000. And no wonder we don't know what is going on, Gonzalez responded. $500,000. For context, guys, you, the viewers of this channel, have raised more money to counter drone technology for the Ukrainians than the FBI has to deploy and protect our country. I'm like flabbergasted. I'm sorry. This should be a video where I try to explain what's going on, but no one can. And that's the problem, is that a lot of people say, well, the U.S. military, we could do something. We could. Listen, if a bureaucracy is so broken, so fundamentally unsound, that it is unable to mobilize its resources to respond to a threat, then it is the same thing as being unable to do so, right? If your immune system doesn't recognize that a virus is harmful, then it is the same thing as having no immune system at all. And so the fact that we pay all these FBI agents, we pay the whole Department of Homeland Security, NORAD, the Pentagon, and not a one of them can down these drones, right? When asked actually about why these drones why the U.S. military can't shoot them down, the military over Picatinny Arsenal says we're not authorized. The military isn't authorized to defend not just a country. They're not authorized to defend their own fucking base. What universe is this? And when people talk about wanting to cut the government spending, it's shit like this that gives total credence to it. Because I cannot explain to you how insane this is. Like, the Ukrainians buy this stuff. It's like 30 grand to drop a Russian drone. And the US government, with its billions and billions and billions of dollars we pump into the DOD and the FBI and Homeland Security and all the other bullshit, not one person has the actual fucking wherewithal to shoot down one of these drones. So, do you want to know my theory? I'm going to share my theory on what these are. But first, I want to mention two things. The first is that you notice that I fire shots at just about everybody on this channel. Proverbially, don't fucking at me. But the reason I can do so is because I'm funded by you. I have no corporate sponsors. I have no major media backing. Nobody tells for lieutenant tier and above. So go over there. Link is in the description. Pick some up. But also asking. Iran's, and I think there's a medium chance it's Iran. I mean, you can guess. I think it's a foreign adversary. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. And because the size of the drones and the coordination level of the drones is too great, right? Like, you wouldn't get 50 dudes, all qualified drone pilots, all able to manufacture car-sized drones and fly them in synchronization day after day after day, right? Sooner or later, one of them would, after weeks, one of them would get in a car accident. Someone would see the drone. A neighbor would go, hey, listen, last night, 6 p.m., I saw old Bob Smith in this weird drone. He was putting some big quadcopter in the back of his pickup. And I'm tired of hearing those drones fly every night. I think he's up to something, right? So the fact that none of that happened, right? I mean, remember, even that kid who shot the United Healthcare CEO, somebody who literally every single American absolutely fucking hates, somebody still ratted that dude out in 6 days. So there's no chance that this is just a couple of hobbyists having a grand old time. And so what I think this is definitely a U.S. adversary. The fact that the FBI is tracking these drones flying in from the coast says there is some kind of vessel that's deploying them. And the fact that the DOD so if this was a DOD project or a CIA project, I can tell you verifiably, there are liaison offices in DC between the FBI and the CIA, FBI and the Pentagon. There's extensive liaison work. This would be 2 phone calls, right? From the FBI headquarters to the Pentagon, one of the 60 Pentagon drone offices that are totally in charge of countering drones. And they'd make that phone call, and then that would be another phone call to the FBI field office that says, yo, don't talk about this anymore, right? And Congress would get told too, right? Congress would be like, yo, no hearings on this, dudes, right? And so this is definitely a foreign adversary, right? And why then are they keep flying drones? The answer is they want to know, is the U.S. what their original intent was, I suspect, was trying to see what the U.S. government's counter drone strategy would look like. So they said, listen, we're going to fly these drones over some sensitive sites, New York. So, right, we're going to fly them over major cities. We're going to fly them in some suburbs. We're going to fly them near a military installation. And we're going to just see what they do. And then what happened, sort of like testing the security. You say, well, let's walk into this military base and see how long it takes us to get approached by security. But then you do it. And like these drones, you realize nobody's doing anything. So then you go, okay, well, let's do 2 drones. Let's do a dozen. Let's do 50 of them. Let's do as many as we can possibly deploy at once. Turn on lights. Let them blink and stuff. Let them do everything. And still nothing happens. No one shoots them down. No one stops them. No one does anything about them, right? U.S. government utterly powerless. Then they go, okay. We've demonstrated the U.S. Surely the U.S. Coast Guard, charged with securing the shores of the United States, surely they will stop these drones. Let's just buzz the Coast Guard cutter until they down them. And then finally, we'll get to learn how the U.S. government stops drones. And then they do it, and the U.S. Coast Guard does nothing. And then the Iranians go, holy shit. If you're Iran, you go, fuck. Guys, I think there is no security in the United States. I think the U.S. government is too...
Not Iran. Iran not that stupid. It would be a gift from God for Iran to attack the U.S. U.S. would go nuclear insane on Iran.
Impotent, too powerless, too bureaucratic, and no one's authorized to do anything. I think the U.S. government doesn't have the ability to counter small drones. I don't think the U.S. government knows how to fight in the era of drone warfare. I think these guys are just fucking clueless.
Probably going to attack.
I think they convinced them. I mean, this is the government, remember, that lost to a bunch of goat farmers in Afghanistan. And I could say I was part of that effort. But the U.S. government and the Pentagon convinced itself that it was effective because they were able to spend money and kill Taliban. But the reality is the Taliban won. The insurgents won in Iraq. So, and now the drones, literal fucking drones, are running amok across some of the most populated and sensitive sites in America. And the US government still is just, they don't understand how totally humiliatingly impotent they are. Like, do you really think you'd be able to fly over a Chinese military installation? What do you think would happen then? Think the Chinese would shoot you down? You want to try this in Iran? See how that would go? See how long your flight time is there? So the fact is, the US government, they take a lot of tax money, and apparently they do fuck all with it. Because again, when it comes to the fundamental meat and potatoes of being a country, defending the country from basic threats, they are absolutely pathetically impotent. In fact, here's an example of just a couple weeks ago, right? The Chinese citizen was charged with flying a drone over a key U.S. military installation with a NASA rocket launch base. This is a Chinese man named Yingpao Zhu, 39, arrested last week at San Francisco, boarding a China-bound flight where he is charged with flying a drone that took aerial images of Vandenberg Air Force Base last month, right? Of course, he said he hacked his drone to fly over the base, obtain footage, and then provide that footage to presumably the Chinese government. Now, what's interesting is even here, the drone was never shot down. The drone flew from Ocean Park, a public area next to the base, flew for nearly an hour. During its flight, the aircraft traveled to an altitude of almost 1 mile above ground level. Security personnel from the base went to a park, spoke with Zhu and someone with him. Zhu had a drone that flew over the base concealed in his jacket, prosecutors said. The drone was later searched. Investigators found several photographs of the base taken from above. Zhu's cell phone found that he conducted a Google search a month earlier, quote, Vandenberg Space Force Base drone rules, and messaged another person about hacking his drone to fly higher than he otherwise could. Zhu has a permanent resident, but returned recently from China in February. The person with him at Ocean Park has entered the United States from China November 26th. So again, and Zhu faces up to 4 years in prison, but based on previous incidents like this of the Chinese flying drones over sensitive military installations, he'll do approximately 6 months, have his visa revoked, and be deported back to China, where undoubtedly China still has all of this data. And in fact, Zhu actually flew this drone concurrent, they don't say this here, he flew it during the launch of a National Reconnaissance Office spy satellite. So again, I say this because unless you are absolutely comically inept, and even then, Zhu got his photos. And if you think that he was waiting for the drone to come back, that the stuff wasn't being recorded and uploaded in real time, you have another thing coming. Remember, they waited. He flew over the NRO satellite. He had the drone in his coat. He was getting ready to go. And so this is the kind of embarrassing ineptness that you see from the US government. And again, I'm like, maybe it's time to cut some people. I don't know what else to say. Anyway, guys, that's all I had.
When it comes to this drone story, these drones flying over multiple locations, my question happens to be, are we being gaslit? Are they gaslighting us? Of course they are. So I made a video about a few months ago where I said that it feels like there are news stories coming out meant to gaslight the public. What I mean is that news and media, they'll come out with a story where it'll sound very strange and odd. We'll become invested. We'll come up with multiple theories. We'll become very concerned. And then out of nowhere, news and media, they'll pull the rug and say, well, this never happened. What? So one example I can use out of many, and trust me, there are many, but going back to when Princess Kate supposedly disappeared and went missing, nobody wakes up one day and says to themselves, where is Princess Kate? I haven't heard from Princess Kate. No, we heard from news and media that Princess Kate has not been seen since Christmas. We went down this big rabbit hole. News and media let us know that these photos that were coming out, like the Mother's Day photo, were heavily doctored. And then we were even told that Kensington Palace is no longer a trusted source. They were as trustful as Iran and Russia and so forth. It was like a real big deal. And then out of nowhere, Day of Skull and Bones, March 22nd, she tells us she has cancer. News and media then turns it around on the public and says that, see, this is what happens when you spread rumors and conspiracy theories that she went missing. But there were other stories like the solar eclipse and so forth. And like I said, I made a video about how these multiple stories were meant to gaslight us. Well, I feel like it's happening again because the White House has now come out and said that these drones are posing no threat, and none of these drones were seen over restricted spaces, restricted airspaces. Again, what?
Upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft that are being operated lawfully. The United States Coast Guard is providing support to the state of New Jersey and has confirmed that there is no evidence of any foreign-based involvement from coastal vessels. And importantly, there are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace. Now, that said, we certainly take seriously the threat that can be posed by unmanned aircraft systems, which is why law enforcement and other agencies continue to support New Jersey and investigate the reports, even though they have uncovered no malicious activity or intent at this particular stage. While there is no known malicious activity occurring, the reported sightings there do, however, highlight a gap in authorities. And so we urge Congress to pass important legislation that will extend and expand existing counter-drone authorities so that we are better prepared to identify and mitigate any potential threats to airports or other critical infrastructure, and so that state and local authorities are provided all the tools that they need to respond to such threats as well. Upon review of—
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? They are being flown lawfully, and more importantly, John Kirby says that there are no reports of them being flown over restricted airspaces. Am I losing my mind? Were we just gaslit hard? And when I say hard, I mean hard. Wait, hold on a second. What do you mean they were not flown over restricted airspaces? Those stories coming straight from the Pentagon where they were flown over restricted airspaces, unidentified drones. Then we had reports coming out that they were being flown over a Air Force base in Indiana, an Air Force base in Virginia. And then we had a story come out where there were drones flying over multiple Air Force bases in the United Kingdom. So if we have John Kirby coming out and saying that these drones were not flying over restricted Air Force bases, there were no reports, then what were these stories about? Were these stories just fake stories, or are they giving us the truth in plain sight and telling us that all this time, these were the United States drones? These were military drones. Now, here's something rather interesting. You heard John Kirby say that they are looking for ways to tighten laws and restrictions when it comes to drones. So was this a ploy to reinforce laws, to make stricter laws when it comes to drones and flying drones? They don't want people investigating and seeing certain things with their drones or whatever, but it sounds like these were military drones used as a way to make tighter laws, to pass something. That is very, very interesting. Like we all thought they were. If we had news stories, reports coming out that yes, there were drones seen flying over all these Air Force bases. Also in New Jersey, they were seen flying over restricted airspaces, like over Trump's golf course or home. But there were reports of drones flying in New Jersey over restricted airspaces. What's funny is that, and I'm reading this from CBS 10, is that Homeland Security themselves said that these drones were seen flying over restricted spaces. Read this. Dozens of mysterious nighttime flights started last month and raised growing concern among residents and officials. Part of the worry stems from the flying objects initially being spotted near Picatinny Arsenal, a U.S. military research and manufacturing facility, and over President-elect Donald Trump's golf course in Bedminster. I would suggest that these are restricted airspaces. But anyway, drones are legal in New Jersey for recreational and commercial use, but they are subject to local and federal aviation administration regulations and flight restrictions. operators must be FAA certified. So that is directly from Homeland Security. And now they're telling us this never happened. What? Why do we have the National Defense Communications spokesperson telling us there were absolutely no reports of drones flying over restricted spaces? This, I can't no more. And I've called this out in my last couple of videos. I said all these news stories coming out that make no sense whatsoever, absolutely no sense whatsoever, are just a distraction. It's a mind game. It's a psyop. We are in one big psyop psychological war. Why are we constantly also hearing the word mothership? We are hearing the word mothership from the government. We are hearing the word mothership from news and media. Why? Why aren't they just saying carrier or something similar to that? Why are they using what's supposedly a UFO term? We are just constantly being played with. We have the government saying that, yes, there's a mothership, Iran mothership off the coast of New Jersey. And then hours later, the government comes back out and debunks the government. Like that last story I was talking about, where the individual had ended the life of the CEO, the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. And I said that he was arrested in a McDonald's, and the officer that arrested him at that McDonald's was Officer Fry. Come on. All these stories just make absolutely no sense. And then what came out, and multiple people are telling me, is that Hana Kobayashi, she was found safe by her family in Mexico. And her father, he lost his life. And all this time, we were focused on Hana Kobayashi. And that story made no sense whatsoever. We just have so many stories where there's just like so much back and forth, so much misinformation. And again, it's just one big psyop. It's a nonstop psychological war on the public, just to distract us, just to see what they can goad us into, just to see how they can capture our attention. That's all this is just to see how they can manipulate us and manipulate our thinking. Even me, they are manipulating me because I'm coming out making this video and saying, well, you said that there were unidentified drones flying over restricted Air Force bases. And now you're coming out and saying, no, there were absolutely no reports of that happening. I am just so over the mind game.
All right, y'all, we got to talk about these New Jersey drones. And it's not just limited to New Jersey anymore. They're seeing them all over the world and in multiple states across the United States. Now, there's multiple theories going on as to what exactly they could be and their origins. We're going to cover each of those. So by the end of this, you're going to be filled in and know exactly what's going on up to this point. So at least for the moment, the government is acting like they have no clue as to what's going on. As always, I tend to be kind of skeptical of that. If certain officials don't know, I do believe there are some that absolutely do. But this is a statement that was given by a high-ranking Pentagon official a couple days ago.
What is happening what can you tell us about these drones?
What I would tell you, Jennifer, is that they are being actively monitored. Installation leaders have determined so far that none of these incursions impact the base residents, the facilities, or the assets that we have on those bases. We're, of course, continuing to work with host nation authorities and our mission partners to ensure the safety of our personnel, our facilities, and equipment. The bottom line is it's something that we're going to take seriously. We're continuing to look into it. But as of right now, it's not had any significant mission impact.
All right, Night God family. I've missed you guys. It's good to be back. Do me a solid. It's been a rough go kind of since I've been back, but I know we can turn it around. And the best way to do that is comment. Emojis. I don't care. Do what you got to do. Just comment, like, and share as much as you can to get me settled into that algorithm, y'all. 2025 is going to be a big year. And hey, for those of my soldiers who stick it out to the end of this video, I got a little Easter egg for you. You're going to want to stick around for that. Only my OG triple OGs. Then, shortly after this, a congressman gave a statement claiming it was Iran. I tend not to believe this at all. I think his sources are wrong, and I don't believe these are actually Iranian craft, and I don't believe there's a mothership off the coast of the United States. Then there's some other statements that were given by a couple high-ranking military gentlemen. They claim that they're coming out of the ocean, which is a possibility. I believe that could be a high possibility. Do I believe all of them are coming from the ocean? No, I don't. I, in fact, believe the other possibility is that they are man-made, and the government does have control of some of them. I do believe the government has drones with the capabilities that these drones are displaying. Now, there's witnesses that are stating that when they fly over, the time on their watches and their clocks actually changes. That is an anomaly that resembles possibly an EMP. Other witnesses have stated they've even tried flying drones up near them to see exactly what they are, but before they get there, their battery runs dead and they literally fall out of the sky, or it dies before they even take off. One gentleman has even gotten in trouble, got arrested because his drone got too close, even though the feds claim they don't know exactly what they are. They still took the time to confiscate this man's drone and arrest him. So for not knowing exactly what they are, that's kind of an odd move to make. Makes me question all around whether they know what is going on or not. That goes back to, though, my theory that they are government controlled, certain ones, and that tends to be the ones with the standard FAA required lighting systems on the drone. So why do I think those are man-made? I tend to believe those are man-made because if there is in fact drones or UAPs that are showing up into our airspace, we're going to put up some sort of defense mechanism, and that would be opposing drones. Those drones, I believe, are the ones that are controlled by the military, and they were up in New Jersey. Most likely they were protecting Trump and making sure that his airspace was covered because he's obviously the incoming president. So it was a protection detail at first assigned to Trump. But obviously it's becoming much more than just those drones. And I'll show a couple of videos behind me here as I'm talking, and you can see the drones I'm speaking of. Next is the theory that, yes, they are in fact aliens, and yes, they are getting bolder, and they are showing their hand. They're actually disclosing themselves to us in a roundabout way. They're not worried about us. They don't seem to be worried about our tech. They don't seem to be worried about us being a threat whatsoever. So they're essentially just disclosing themselves in a mild way. Either that or they're preparing us for some type of disclosure. These things have been spotted all over the world, from Russia to Kazakhstan to China to Japan, the United Kingdom, you name it. There has been videos of these UAPs all over, and some of them are in little swarms, others are solo, but most of the time they don't have the type of lighting that you would expect a FAA approved type human craft would have. And that's kind of my telltale at this point. They don't have the red and green glowing lights. They don't have the blinking lights. They have constant lighting or no lighting at all. It'll flash, something like that, pulse. It's never consistent with what you or I see every day as in airplanes in the sky. But what's crazy is the FBI has been sent in to investigate some of these drones, and as a result, they are getting followed home by these things, which is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. So they call this the hitchhiker's effect. It's considered a supernatural phenomenon. This phenomenon was first established during the Skinwalker Ranch era. What would happen was guys would go and investigate, or people would go to investigate Skinwalker Ranch, and they would tend to bring these supernatural happenings that took place while they're at the ranch home. And that's regardless of how far away they lived. They would often see shadow people once they got home. It's something that if you go to a haunted place or have a supernatural experience, it can tend to sometimes follow you home. The hitchhiker's effect. So some of these FBI agents are claiming this is happening to them. All right, so after this, let me know in the comments what y'all think. But like I said, I believe the drones with our lighting setup, our lighting requirements on them is military or U.S. based drones. And why? Well, I believe that's because they're patrolling, like I said, especially over New Jersey for the base that's there and Trump. They're going to protect Trump at all costs. Bottom line is, I believe those drones are ours. But this next drone, I'm going to show you guys right here, that is what I believe to be a UFO. You can see the nose in the front, the two wings, and then it's got thrusters. Well, I want you to check out this video that I stumbled across, probably a year or so ago. It instantly hit my mind when I saw these drones flying through the sky. Check it out. Now, what do y'all think? I didn't play the rest of the video. There's a lot more to it, but I can give you the gist of it. That is, I believe, a reptilian craft. Also, I wanted to show you this. I want to show you one more thing and then we'll wrap it up. Check this out. Crazy picture. That's of a drone in New Jersey. That is a UFO, no doubt about it. But it almost reminds you of something. If you look closely, it reminds you of some sort of being referenced in the Bible.
Those are the
an angel type being. This is too. Check this out.
That's the wheel on a wheel.
All right, y'all. So you see the craft behind me, right? I was doing a little research on it, and it was something called the flying wheel. And that's what Ezekiel called it. I think it was the flying wheel. But I want to read you some of the excerpt that has to do with these flying wheels and Ezekiel and his experience with God. It's wild. I was 30 years of age. I was living with the exiles on the Kabar River. On the 5th day of the 4th month, the sky opened up and I saw visions of God. Well, and God's hand came to him that day. I looked. I saw an immense dust storm come from the north, an immense cloud with lightning flashing from it, with a huge ball of fire glowing like bronze. Within the fire were what looked like 4 creatures, vibrant with life. Each had the form of a human being, but each also had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were sturdy and straight as columns, but their feet were hooved like those of a calf and sparkled from the fire like burnished bronze. On all 4 sides under their wings, they had human hands. All 4 had both faces and wings, with the wings touching one another. They turned neither one way nor the other. They went straight forward. Their faces looked like this. In front, a human face. On the right side of the face, a lion. On the left side of the face, an ox. And in the back, the face of an eagle. So much for the faces. The wings were spread out with the tips of one pair touching the creature on either side. The other pair of the wings covered its body. Each creature went straight ahead. Wherever the spirit went, they went. They didn't turn, they just went. The 4 creatures looked like a blazing fire, or like fiery torches. Tongues of fire shot back and forth between the creatures, and out of the fire, bolts of lightning. The creatures flashed back and forth like strikes of lightning. As I watched the 4 creatures, I saw something that looked like a wheel on the ground beside each of the 4 faced creatures. This is what the wheels looked like. They were identical wheels, sparkly, like diamonds in the sun. It looked like they were wheels within wheels, like a gyroscope. They went in any one of the 4 directions they faced, but straight, not veering off. The rims were immense, circled with eyes. When the living creatures went, the wheels went. When the living creatures lifted off, the wheels lifted off. Wherever the spirit went, they went, the wheels sticking right with them. For the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. When the creatures went, the wheels went. When the creatures stopped, the wheels stopped. When the creatures lifted off, the wheels lifted off. Because the spirit of the living creatures was within the wheels. Over the heads of the living creatures was something like a dome, shimmering like a sky full of cut glass, vaulted over their heads. Under the dome was one set of wings, extended towards the others, with another set of the wings covering their bodies. When they moved, I heard their wings. It was like the roar of a great waterfall, like the voice of a strong god, like the noise of a battlefield. When they stopped, they folded their wings. And then, as they stood with folded wings, there was a voice from above the dome over their heads. Above the dome, there was something that looked like a throne, sky blue like a sapphire, with a human-like figure towering above the throne. From what I could see, from the waist up, he looked like burnished bronze, and from the waist down, like a blazing fire. Brightness everywhere, the way a rainbow springs out of the sky on a rainy day. That's what it was like. It turned out to be the glory of God. Wow. The dome above their heads, like a vaulted dome. Were they in a craft, or did they have like a spacesuit on, or were they talking about the firmament? I don't even know. It's like, could be all of the above. That is amazing, y'all. I got to read some more of that, no doubt about it. Not to get too in the religious stuff, but I don't know if you all have been following it, but I try to stay away from that. Look what old boy Billy Carson's going through. You know, you almost should have expected it. Going against Christians or any religion for that matter, you shouldn't. It's very ill-advised to go against any faith at all, period, and tell them they're anything because of what they believe. It's not right. But hey, we never go there. You know that. All love and light here. I hope you enjoyed that. I just wanted to show you that wheel. Could these beings be of that high of spirituality? The cherubim is what they're called. Stay in the love, stay in the light, be kind to others, y'all.
Go figure. Follow me.